So it was bubbling. Like I said, it was all emerging. So like you saw little things here and there, and the boom boxes were definitely becoming bigger and louder. And so mommy and I were walking past some spot, and there were these guys, and they were like jamming to the music, and then boom, one went down to the floor. And I was like, oh, mira, mira, mom was like, no, 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 come here, come here. We're not going to watch that. We don't want to watch that. Like, eso no es nada. Meanwhile, that was going to be my life. But it was just bubbling. That's all I can say. It was starting to emerge and develop as a big deal. So by the time I saw it in the movies, like Beat Street, that's 84, it was happening. It was in my school. It was happening. And so to see it in a movie, rest in peace to Harry Belafonte,
Yes.
and he produced that movie, and you barely see it in any of his tributes on the news. But
You're
he
right.
put
You're
Beat
right
Street.
about it.
He put Beat Street. He put us out there.
Well, on
So
this show, he will get a highlight on that about B
yes,
Street.
thank you, because I was like, how is nobody saying this? Like, yes, he's an
Yeah.
activist. Yes, he's a singer. Okay, we are the world. Está bien. Where's the Beat Street?
Yeah,
And
he did open the
because of
doors.
yeah, he did. He didn't have to do that, but he felt like it's coming. This is the next generation to bring our excellence to the cameras, to the
Yes, yes.
world. So thank God for him. And I saw Baby Love in that movie. I saw Peaches in that movie. You know
Okay.
what I mean? Like
Yes, yes.
it was starting to tell me this could be you, you know, in a very subtle way. Because I didn't like turn around and say, "Mommy, I want to be a dancer." I was still very little. 84, I was 13. So I was still very little. I couldn't like create my destiny just yet. So, pero it definitely it left a seed. And so, we're up rocking and we're listening to the music. Now it's a bunch of rap on the radio. You got Lisa on the radio. La
Oh,
cosa
so now
están
you got with the
cambiando.
freestyle, the
Yeah.
disco,
Yeah,
you hear
things are
Latin
changing.
house music. All this
House
is
music.
coming in at once.
3, 2, 1.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another great episode of Flash Talks, history worth listening to. Ladies and gentlemen, I go by the name of Flashback. And today, or let's say this evening, we have a very, very, very special person in my heart. And not only in my heart, but for the whole entire world. A New York City native who has represented women in hip hop dance professionally over the past 3 decades. She co founded Full Circle Production, New York City's only nonprofit hip hop dance theater company, with her husband, Kwikstep, generating theater pieces, dance training programs, and New York City based dance events. She directed a documentary highlighting the Bgirl lifestyle entitled All the Ladies Say, with support from the Third World Newsreel and the Bronx Council of the Arts. She is hired internationally to judge breaking competition and to offer her unique workshops aimed at evolving and preserving its techniques and cultural aspects. She has worked within the New York City public school system and various New York City based community centers, setting up programs that help expose young students to the possibility of a career in dance. In May of 2017, she launched Shiraka, a t shirt fashion line with Shiro, a Japanese graffiti artist. She has been featured in pivotal rap music videos, tours, films, fashion shows, and commercials, including the Netflix special series called The Get Down. And I know you guys seen that show. She has choreographed for diverse festivals and concerts such as the New York Philharmonic Orchestra Firebird in 2022, the Kennedy Center, Mama's Hip Hop Kitchen, and the Oregon Shakespeare Festival. Branching out her dance lane, she has also recorded original songs, poetry, and performed at New Jersey's PAX alternate routes in Newark and Lincoln Center out of doors. Presently, she is an adjunct professor at the New School and a content creator for the Bronx Net TV. What? Producing her own show called Quick to Rock. She is a multifaceted Afro-Latin hip-hop artist who referenced New Rican culture as her foundation. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Ana Garcia, aka Rokafella.
Burn 'em. Burn 'em. Burn 'em. Burn 'em. Burn 'em. Burn 'em. Burn 'em.
Rokafella! Yes, yes, yes.
Oh my
That's what
God.
I'm talking
Wow.
about.
That was crazy. That was like a piece of my life in different points. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Thank you so much, Flashback.
How
Hearts
you
over
like the
here.
intro though? How you like the intro?
It's beautiful. I look so like, I don't know, free and like fiery. It's nice. It's nice. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, the beautiful thing is you've always been a free person since the first day I met you. And I
Aw.
appreciate you being on the show. It's such an honor. I want to give you the flowers now. I got you in front of you. You're still alive. You're still here. You're still
¿Verdad que
dancing.
sí?
You still,
Oye.
you know what I'm saying? You're still doing your thing. So I want to make sure I say thank you for being in my life, for introducing me to the hip hop culture. Just, paving the way for all the B-girls and B-boys in New York City and worldwide. So thank you for being on Flash Talks. Thank
You're
you.
welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. And we don't do it. I don't do it. People like me don't do it so that we can get flowers or awards or we're just spreading good vibes because somebody spread them to us. And we also witnessed the people who are older than us doing magic. Like they were changing the world. And so that's what we observed. Somebody gave us the key and we were like, vámonos, let's bring other people with us on the bus. so again,
Yes,
thank you
yes.
for that. But just know that we just do it because it's what has to be done. It's all I know how to do.
Yes, yes. And it's crazy because we know each other for a long,
Mucho
long
tiempo
time. And I
ya.
want to get into this because a lot of people don't know we go back since the early 90s. And I'm talking
Yeah.
about when I was in high school.
Right.
You might
Oh
be
my
a
God.
few years older than me, and I'm not gonna throw the age out there, but
Thank you. Thank
I'm
you.
I'm 45 right now, just so you know.
Man, that's
And
good.
you met me when I was, I'm gonna say a junior in high school. And I'm gonna throw
Wow.
the number 1995. And it's
That
crazy
sounds
that it's
about right.
been, yeah, because I graduated that same year because I was a little smarty person, so I kind of like graduated from high school a little earlier.
Okay.
But
Oh,
it's
that's what
crazy
happened.
how, yeah, so it's just crazy how we met, and we're gonna get into that. But this is what I want you to do right now. I want to ask you a few questions. I want you to think of when you were 10 years old. I want you to go back to when you were introduced to the hip hop culture, and I'm
Oh,
talking
wow.
about Rockefeller, Anita at, let's say,
Yeah, yeah,
10
yeah.
years old,
Ay,
10, 12
Dios.
years old, before even like anything happened, like
Nothing. Yeah,
life when it
right.
came to the culture, before breaking, before anything you've gotten into. I want you to take me back. Where were you born, first of all? Like where did it all start for you?
Bueno, mommy had me at the hospital called Mount Sinai on Fifth Avenue by 98, por ahí, 99. It's a big black building that looks over Central Park. And yeah, I started in El Barrio. We lived on 115th and Park, and then I grew up at 112th and 5th. Taft Projects facing Carver,
Okay.
George Washington Projects. So it was like Taft Projects, Washington Projects, bunch of burnt out buildings in between. And I had a lot of family in El Barrio and in the Bronx. I had like one or two uncles in Brooklyn. That was my universe, school, church, the super, la malqueta. And
Yes, yes.
yeah, which doesn't exist anymore, but it was under the Metro North train. And that was my little universe. And so in my house, it was Latin music, like, salsa, merengue, especially merengue. There were a lot of like Wilfredo Vargas, Johnny Ventura playing. There was a lot of Fania, but there was also other like boleros. There was a lot of Mexican ranchera music playing too. We knew Vicente Fernandez.
Alejandro Fernandez, you listening to the Julio
Yes,
Iglesias,
yes. It was a
the
very
Juan
Latin.
Gabriel,
Juan Gabriel, of course. Yeah, Manuel. It was
Ana
definitely
Gabriel
like
too.
Ana Gabriel was she was definitely in there too. And so, it was a Latin house. The minute I left that hallway and went downstairs, then it was Motown, it was, R&B, it
Oh,
was
okay.
different, because African Americans had a whole different culture. Jamaicans, pero we all mixed. Like we were like in the same check cashing line, in the same, places. So we had a really good synergy. There was no real like separation in that sense. So, being in school with these people, I was aware that there was something bubbling, something different. And I didn't know what it was. But then my brother, rest in peace, who was 10 years older than me, he brought the Rapper's Delight record, the 12-inch.
Oh, okay, okay.
And so, like I tell people, I kind of owe my hip hop journey to him because he brought that. And third grade, fourth grade, what was I doing? Just repeating the lyrics of the song that he played at home in school, and that got me access. It got me like cool points. So I was hanging out with the older kids who knew the song and were actually like cool. So that for me was access. It started to train in a way me to think, oh, if I can rap or if I can be ahead of the curve, I can hang out with the people who are like making moves. So that's the beginning, really. And as time went on, now there were more people dancing in the cafeteria. People brought boom boxes to school because there was no había regulación. It was too new.
Yeah, so there's no
Too new.
regulation now. You're listening to Rappers Delight. Besides that, your brother introducing to you. Do you have sisters? Do you have a brother, a little brother? Do you have
No,
cousins living with you, or was
yeah.
it just your older brother?
It was my older brother, my older sister. They're 10 and 9 years older than me, respectively. And of course, there were cousins. There were always cousins coming from Puerto Rico or uncles to crash in the living room, los catre, little cots, not air mattresses, but just little cots. And so, my family was always, receiving people and then kind of ushering them and getting them jobs. So there was a lot. My universe had a lot of people in it, not just my siblings. And rap was growing, the dance was growing, so that was just like the first signs to me that I was going to participate in this. I was going to be in it, but I couldn't break because my brother didn't dance, my sister didn't dance, none of my cousins came from Puerto Rico knowing how to break dance, so I was still a spectator for a long time.
Now, did you see, so, my bad, did you see, besides breaking, was there anything else you saw before breaking? Like graffiti,
I
DJ,
mean,
like, because you
yeah.
mentioned Rapper's Delight, but you didn't put it all two and two together of saying, oh, this is hip
No,
hop.
because that would be a very long story, you know what I'm saying? And we
Yeah,
don't have that
yeah,
much time,
yeah,
But
yeah, for
yeah, as
sure.
I said, like hip hop was emerging. So it was already starting to bubble and create the elements and actually like visibility. So first it happens in the hood and then it goes downtown. Once it goes downtown, then the camera wants to
Absolutely.
come up. All the cameras come up then because they're curious about what's happening. And, if Bambaataa showing up or Cool Herc or whoever, DXT is doing parties downtown, the cameras are like, oh, take me to your leader. Where's the rest of these people? And the block party, the block party is happening. So, in the summer, especially, you hear bass music when you go. You kind of go to where's that coming from? And it's a schoolyard and it's DJs and a bunch of equipment and people. So again, hip hop was growing up at the same time I'm growing up. And I'm starting to understand, that there's a way to gain popularity and people want to be around you. So that's different than you being the smartest kid on the block or your parents have money. This is different. And again, you've got the fires happening, people are moving, right after that, you get like, by the time I'm 13, 14, crack and AIDS is like big, and AIDS is just starting. By the time I'm in high school, you got to be careful who you go out with because you can catch AIDS and
Yeah.
die. So it was a very treacherous childhood. I didn't have like, kind of the more safe type of environment my brother and my sister did, or that my father came, because my father came in the 50s. My brother and sister were born in 61, 62. So they grew up in a more wholesome time. I mean, there was a little bit of heroin, but it was not like the 70s and 80s where I was growing up and you just didn't know if you were going to die.
Now,
You
now
really
is
didn't.
everybody from Puerto Rico? Everybody from Puerto Rico?
Yes. In my family, yeah. Of course, my brother, my sister, and me are born here. So we're first generation, but my mom and dad and all my uncles and cousins are coming in from the island. And my father's brother was a central person here in the 50s. So he became a super. And once you become a super, you have access to apartments. And so as soon as an apartment gets, vacant, boom.
Yeah.
Trae el tío, el
Immediately.
primo. Yeah, it's how we do it. It's
So
how
now
many immigrants do it.
You're part of this mambo era, the salsa coming in, the Tito
Salsa.
Puente era, like that whole thing, that whole movement from Héctor Lavoe,
Fania.
Betty, Fania All-Star, like that whole movement was happening. Now, how long were you in Harlem, El Barrio, before you left there? You were there all your childhood before you started?
Just till my 7th grade. Because things got real. Things got really treacherous. And my father he didn't like it. It was too different from what he came into. And so we moved around a lot. So he got different jobs. He even got a job in Jersey. I lived in New Brunswick. I lived in Union City, and then in the Bronx. And in the Bronx, we moved around a few times until we stayed at that one spot where, he just passed away. His apartment's still there. So we moved a lot.
Sorry to hear that.
Rest in peace. Thank you. But he, he knew that things were just that's not where he wanted. He came from Puerto Rico for a better life. He wasn't going to allow crack and just everything to just crumble his family. So a lot of my family members also moved out. They went to Connecticut, Pennsylvania. So it was an exodus. Once that crack and AIDS came in, like all the people were getting locked up, a lot of shootouts. That's it. Nos mudamos. And
now, will you say the message from Grandmaster Flash, like around that time, would it describe that time exactly like the music video?
Yeah, it was accurate. And there were times when we would come home from a parranda or somebody's wedding, and all of us were like, okay, if you hear something, run. That was a basic rule. Tú oyes algo, tienes que correr. Ya tú sabes dónde vive. Boom. And we knew, we never wanted to wear a gold chain. Like, this is fake. Like, these are not diamonds. But I wouldn't. No, they're not. But I would not even wear a fake thing that shines at that time. In the dark, out on the street. You wouldn't do it because you're sparking curiosity from los maleantes, the criminals out there. So no fur coats, no leather, no nothing, because we heard of people getting shot for their leather jackets, for their sneakers, for their gold chains. So you had to be very low key in the hood. And even today, like, I'm trying not to. A lot of us are on defense out here. We don't try to shine too much. You can be clean and look nice, but you can't be like with the, all the flossing and the brand names. You can't do that because.
Which I heard New York is getting crazy again. Like, New York supposedly is getting back to the before Giuliani came into power in the 90s. I heard that it's like robberies, like stick up kids, and like heavy. It's getting back to, especially after the pandemic, because all the poverty that set in. People trying to figure it out. So and,
it's
I left
right now.
I left in 2004, and I visit here and there. But every time I go, I always bring a story back because I'm up in the Heights. My whole family is still in New York, and they're up there. When I visit them, I'm like, yo, what the hell? Just like you hear down the corner, like people shooting and the cops, and I'm like, wait, am I just used to Florida, or is this getting crazy again? And according to the majority of people live in New York, they're telling me the crime is rising, it's getting a little crazier. And
I mean, I kind of feel like it was always like that. Like in the Bronx, you always had sirens, you always had shootouts. It's not always going to end up on the news. If it did, you'd be even more crazy, like, because you feel like there's no hope. But I feel like there was always pockets of criminality. There's always been guns. There's always been drugs. We don't make the drugs. We don't bring the guns in, but somehow they end up here. And because there's no jobs, and because there's, education is still trying. Like, I'm not going to diss the education system. It's trying. It's coming up. a bit, trying to steer kids into like better career paths. But it is what it is, and depending on where you live and your lifestyle, you could survive
That
out here
too.
and be okay
That
because
too. That too. Now, going back to you being like around 15, let's say, moving
yeah,
from where you moved, you went to the
I
Bronx,
see.
you started moving around.
Yeah.
Right before you saw the first person breaking or someone spinning or a B-girl, B-boy, which you didn't even know what it was. Can you tell me a story of like how you first saw that? You were like, whoa, was it on TV? Was it on Soul Train? Like
No,
you're like,
yeah.
how did it
I think
happen?
I think Soul Train was more for like locking or soul dancing. It was more R&B. I was definitely watching Shabba-Doo, you know what I'm saying? So rest in peace to him. When I met him, it was a big deal. But no, I saw it first out and about, out in the hood, the courtyards. Between the projects, there's always an area where there's like swings or chess,
Or where
checker
they people
tables.
play handball, people play
Yeah,
handball.
so it was bubbling. Like I said, it was all emerging. So like you saw little things here and there, and the boom boxes were definitely becoming bigger and louder. And so mommy and I were walking past some spot, and there were these guys, and they were like jamming to the music, and then boom, one went down to the floor. And I was like, oh, mira, mira, mom was like, no, 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 come here, come here. We're not gonna watch that. We don't want to watch that. Like eso no es nada. Meanwhile, that
Yeah,
was
yeah.
gonna be my life. But it was just bubbling. That's all I can say. It was starting to emerge and develop as a big deal. So by the time I saw it in the movies, like Beat Street, that's 84, it was happening. It was in my school, it was happening. And so to see it in a movie, rest in peace to Harry Belafonte,
Yes.
he produced that movie. And you barely see it in any of his tributes on the news, but
You're
he
right.
put
You're
Beat
right
Street.
about that.
He put Beat Street. He put us out there.
Well, on
So
this show, he will get a highlight on that about
yes,
B Street.
thank you. Because I was like, how is nobody saying this? Like, yes, he's an
Yeah.
activist. Yes, he's a singer. Okay, we are the world. Está bien. Where's the Beat Street?
Yeah.
And
He
and
did open the
because of
doors.
yeah, he did. He didn't have to do that, but he felt like it's coming. This is the next generation to bring our excellence to the cameras, to the
Yes. Yes.
world. So thank God for him. And I saw Baby Love in that movie. I saw Peaches in that movie. You know
Okay.
what I mean? Like it was starting to
Yes.
really,
Yes.
it was starting to tell me this could be you, in a very subtle way. Because I didn't like turn around and say, "Mommy, I want to be a dancer." I was still very little. 84, I was 13. So I was still very little. I couldn't like create my destiny just yet. So, pero it definitely it left a seed. And so, we're up rocking and we're listening to the music. Now it's a bunch of rap on the radio. You got Lisa on the radio.
Oh,
La
so
cosa
now
están
you got with the
cambiando.
freestyle, the
Yeah.
disco,
Yeah,
you hear
things are
Latin
changing.
house music. All
House
this is
music,
coming in at once,
a
right?
little bit. House is kind of a little later. It's like 87 for me. It
Yes.
didn't
Yes.
really,
That's right.
84 todavía es Beat Street, but you're getting like some of the more up-tempo music, Shannon, you're listening to a lot more of what electro funk is becoming, people rapping over Jam on It by Nucleus. It's just,
Yes.
back-to-back hits. And it's so different than Cameo or Earth, Wind and Fire or, Shaka Khan. But Shaka Khan did come out with the Melly Mel. I feel
That's
for
right.
you, Shaka Khan, Shaka
Yes.
Khan.
Oh my
Let me rock Shaka
God.
Khan,
That's
right? So
yeah.
I think I was in 7th grade by the time that song came out. So it's like, white lines going,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
it was a beautiful time of
You had set it off
exploration.
around that time,
También,
set it off,
yeah.
playing
So
like
things were
so
like
that's the era.
exploring. That's the era. Everybody was being like an explorer, like a pioneer. Like, let me try this, let me do this. It's gonna hit. But everybody was different, and yet it was all the same. And I was really just trying to catch up, because again, in my house, it's all Latin, So I'm really trying
So
to
will they
catch up
do a
with what's happening
parties? A lot
outside.
of parties at your house? A lot of
Parties would be
parties?
like on the weekends or like Mother's Day, Christmas. That's when the major parties would happen. But we would have birthdays or weekends were
So
the
now,
time
so I
to get
have a
together.
question during the birthday parties when you guys
Yeah,
are having a great time doing your thing. It's like basically merengues,
it is
salsa, and all that. But
totally
now
salsa.
they will play like one song which will be like American music. Hey, una música americana, like
Right,
one or
like
two
a
tracks,
Whitney
right?
Houston, like a Whitney Houston song. Or she
Yes,
was very
yes, yes.
popular. She was very popular with Latinos. Whitney Houston. Oh my God. I wanna dance with somebody. I
Yeah.
wanna
How
be.
about Madonna? Was she pretty big in the Latin culture
I
there or
think
not
so.
really?
I think it was more like Gloria Stefan, maybe if it
Oh,
was Madonna, maybe it was like Holiday, you know.
yes.
If it was like
Some
a
Cyndi
black group,
Lauper in there too.
if it was a black group, it was probably like celebrate good time.
Oh,
Come
okay,
on.
okay. I
Who's that?
got you.
Who's that? Cool in the
So
gang.
you got
Cool in the
Cool
gang.
in the Gang, you got Earth, Wind
Right.
and Fire playing
Yeah.
around that time,
Right.
the
Yeah.
Gap
Little.
Band, like
Yeah.
all
Something
those
slip in.
mainstream.
It would slip
Yes.
in, yeah. And so, I'm watching a lot of MTV and like MTV Raps at one point. That's when I was a teenager more. So now I'm presenting what I like to the family. By now my brother and sister
Oh,
have left. There's different cousins. My parents are older, so I have a little more props to be like, no, yo quiero aprender esto. Yo quiero, I want to watch this. Quiero poner esta música, and they will be like, oh, okay, whatever you feel. So now I'm introducing to my parents more of the cool stuff, Jody Watley, and so then it's like, oh, Janet Jackson, Michael Jackson. So they are starting to have an ear for more American pop music, and I'm in it. I'm into Prince. I'm into all of this stuff. And my friends are teaching me the WAP, the Cabbage Patch. Like we're just in school
oh.
is really when it's happening. In school, like for lunch, recess, outside, after school, that's when we're like, I will do this to Salt and Pepper. So, things are now becoming like
Were you
part
down
of
with
my
any
life.
dance team? Were you part of
No,
any dance team in school?
no.
Like
I
any
think in every
talent
school,
show, anything?
I went to, there was always a talent show. Y yo me escribía. I would register. I'd be like, I got two friends. We want to do something. And then you have to audition for the people organizing the talent show. So, if it's a spring concert. So I was always in the mix with that. So thankfully, being on stage kind of at that point in my life helps to work, the nervousness and, trying to be as precise and on point as you can be. But they were like school, it wasn't like big productions. And my parents never went to that. They were either working a night shift or, los padres, they had like 2 and 3 jobs. So I really couldn't demand and require that they show up. But I do know that when I asked to take dance classes, they were like, no, no hay dinero para eso. Tú quieres bailar, te ponemos la música en la sala. You want to dance, we'll put the music on the radio in the living room. You can be there how many hours you want. We're not paying for dance classes. And, I had to eat that because my friends started taking dance classes, especially as I got older. And I was like, okay, teach me what you learned. Show me show me what but it doesn't matter because what I got was from the hood. But that is one thing that kind of stayed with me that, if they had just saved a little bit of money for my training, I might have been a little more ahead of the game when my chance came, but it's okay. I have no regrets. It had to be the way it was. And, as time went on, I got better. I got better and better. By high school, I went to my first club at 87, and that's in 1987. And that's why I'm telling you that's when house music really like presented itself to my eyes and my ears. I was like, what is
So
this?
so so what was that? What was that moment that you were like, oh my God, I need to do that. I'm in love. I'm obsessed. I eat, sleep, drink, all that. What was it? What was that moment that day, if you could remember that you were like, I need to learn this? Like,
It
if
was
you
it
could go
was
back
two.
to that.
It was two moments. One was with
Like,
a
tell
boyfriend
us
that I
about that. I
had.
want to hear. We all want to
Yeah,
hear that.
I know. It was we had finally moved back to the Bronx. I was in a high school and someone gave me a flyer down in the village. I went to the village because that was where everybody kind of hung out. And I was about between 16 and 17. And someone gave me a flyer to a club in Queens. Yo vivo en el Bronx. I'm in the Bronx
Oh,
and it's a
and
flyer, but
that's a trip for us
it
as a kid. It's like Queens. That's a trip.
it was a trip, but I somehow convinced my boyfriend at the time, who happened to be like 3 houses down, Dominican. His name was Adrian. I was like, vamos para allá. And he was like, well, let's go. I've never been. I was like, well, I need to go. I need to see what they do. So I went to a club called Lemoore East. Not a big club, but definitely had a flyer and had, I think, a performer. And I went there and it was okay. But then they played this like what I later came to know as up rocking. an up rocking song. And a lot of people were doing this, and I was just like, yo,
Oh,
like
is that up rock what from what
Queens.
song? Which one?
No me
I know,
acuerdo.
but it
No
was
me
an up
acuerdo.
rock song. Oh, so it's a song. So basically, they were playing some funk song, and people were up rocking to, but you don't remember the
Right.
song.
No, I
You
don't
just
remember
saw
the song.
somebody doing that. You're like, what the hell?
Yeah. And I want to say that there was freestyle playing and maybe some house because we stayed there like pretty much all night. But the one thing that stayed with me was that at one point, everybody triggered and they all started doing an old dance, you know, and I was like, yo, this is dope, you know, like that took me, you know, we came home super late, you know, of course my parents were angry. They were angry at Adrian too. They were like, we trusted you, we thought you were going to bring her back by midnight.
Yes.
But you know, I guess he made up to them, whatever. And we and then he went with me again, maybe like 2 weeks later, to a club called 1018, which used to be the Roxy.
Oh, I heard of 1018. Yes, yes.
For that one, it was all house music. There was very little freestyle that one night I went, but it was like everybody was dancing. When I tell you everybody was dancing, it wasn't like one circle and people holding their drinks. Everyone was a star. And I did see a couple of circles, people in the circles, but yo no me atrevía, you know, yo no me tiré. I didn't jump in because what moves, you know, I have little moves from around here that I can do here at a party or something. These people were really good. And so that's it. Ahí se me pegó la fiebre. Like
Now they were spinning. They were spinning around and all
no,
that.
no. They were doing like leaps and they were doing a lot of feet shuffle stuff and one arm, you know, just they were to me like the fusion of what used to be breaking and house. So it was like lofting. It was like this beautiful fusion. Yeah, I wanted more. I was bit by the bug and I wanted every weekend. And if not Friday, then Saturday. And if, you know, then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, because then now people tell you about the other clubs to go to. So it was hard for my parents because they were like, esta muchacha,
And
she's
you're
out.
underage? You're underage at that time?
Underage. Yeah, I got a fake ID in Times
Oh, of
Square.
course.
I
Everyone got a
paid,
fake ID back
yep.
then.
Yeah, I paid $60 for it. And my boyfriend was 21, so he could get in, but I had to have that ID. And because, you know, I was with him and, you know, I had the makeup, whatever, los taquitos.
Yes.
I could, you know, slide. But that to me was the academy. I was, you know, it took me a while before I jumped in, but I was observing, como, you know, I was eating, I was observing and watching everyone.
So you were learning the party aspect of everything that was going on. It wasn't like competition and all that. It was party.
I mean, maybe it was because when the circle would form, because that one song would play. Yes, it was competition, but it was like, you know, I want to say let's say I'm dancing, I have to hurry because someone else wants to get in. So that was the competition. And then if you want to get in, you got to wait. You're itching till I'm finished, or, you know, so there was a little bit of that, you know, like, when do I go? When do I go? Here you go. Okay, let me finish. So it was that. And luckily the DJ extended the songs and I guess he was watching the circle. So he knew I got to let this play for a little bit because if this, you know, this one is hot.
Yeah, people are going off.
Right. Yeah. So it was a good time. I think it wasn't shootouts. It wasn't, you know, pelea. There were no fights. People were just jamming. And there were girls jamming. I don't remember their names. The only one I knew that I was rocking with was a girl named Roxanne from Queens. She was like my ace. And she was amazing too. Not breaking, but just a couple of floor moves, like a half split or something, a little dolphin, but a bunch of, like, you know, steps, you know, like a backflip. Everybody was live, you know, and but dressing up and polka dots and just everything was like a show. And then eventually someone said to me, I want you to do background dancing for me. And that's the next chapter, because now I gotta go somewhere and rehearse. I have to, you know, be professional. I have to know all the counts. They're giving me wardrobe. It's not paid. Those are free shows because it's like a freestyle singer who's coming up. And so, but that was the next level, because now I'm telling my parents, no, que la limosina viene, you know, I'm going to get picked up in a limo. And my parents are like, where you going? Well, who? And I don't know these people. And when are you coming back? So that started to set off a whole different chain of events, and I met more people. And then from there, I met my boyfriend at that time, who was like, you know, you got to learn how to boogie, you got to learn floor moves. And that was
And
Robert.
Who's that?
That's Robert. That's my like first pretty much dance partner, you know, my first boyfriend. And
Did he have a
introduced me to-
nickname?
They on the street, when we were dancing on the street, they used to call him Rico Suave, Zen.
Rico's,
I know,
that's
because you know,
awesome. Rico Suave.
well, because he was
He
one
had
of
good
the
hair? Did he have
yes,
good hair?
he totally did. Yep. And so he was one
That's
of the
funny.
people who introduced me to dancing on the street and the hitters, and also the underground boogieing. You know, I met Shake, light skinned Shake, who was someone who was doing choreography for Bobby Brown, Mary J. Blige. So it was like two worlds that he opened the doors to.
Wow.
The industry, and then and popping and boogieing and dancing on the street. So now it's 1991, and I'm on the street, and I'm in Times Square. I'm no longer living with my mom or my dad. I moved out, and I was working at the Gap and at Alexander's on Lexington.
Oh man, I remember that spot.
Right, I had my own money, so ya como que me independicé. You know, I was independent.
Yeah, so you're
And,
them. So you're how old were you around that time? 91.
19, 20.
So you're 20 years old. You don't live with your parents. You're out and about doing your thing, finding your own identity. You weren't into breaking. You were just hitting in the street.
I was
you were just dancing.
So I was boogieing. So I was more of like, you know, someone who could do like, you know, a little bit of popping, some tutting, and at night, like house. I love to dance house. So I had quite a few styles in my belt. Like I could do a new jack swing, I could boogie, and like a house. Of course, salsa from home, you know, that was always in there. But I'm making my way in the clubs. People are getting to know who I am. You know, Brian Green, I met Marge, Voodoo Ray. I battled Voodoo Ray Ejo. You know, I battled him too. It was like a beautiful, I want to say, era in my life where I'm just like,
yeah. Rest in peace to Voodoo Ray too, and Margie.
Yeah, and Marge.
Rest in peace to them. Wow,
yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah.
So now you're meeting all of them. You're not really. You've seen already B-boys and B-girls, or not really. You were more on the choreography, routines, and
and boogieing. Like if I went into a circle or something, you know, I knew that I had at least 2 or 3, you know, rounds that I could do a boogieing. But on the street is when I met Kwikstep. And so that's the other chapter. That's when the other part of my life.
So before going to that chapter, because I know that's the juicy part of the story, which is beautiful. So now, before that, were you watching In Living Colors and watching the Fly Girls?
I auditioned for them. I didn't make it. Yeah.
You auditioned for the Fly Girls.
I did.
That's awesome.
Even at that time, things had changed already. So you had to have a good pirouette or 2 pirouettes, you know, the spin. You had to have a certain style. It wasn't just like flag. It wasn't just, what's the word? It wasn't like
urban dancing.
It wasn't from the hood.
You couldn't
it
do
was
urban
starting to blend. Yeah, it was starting to blend with like studio dance. And whenever
jazz
that happened,
and all that.
I couldn't fuck with that. Like even some of the dancing for even the freestyle artists, I would be like, can I just do one turn, or do we have to turn here? I was always trying to like negotiate because I was not jazz or you know, officially trained. So
plus they didn't take you to a ballet school or modern dancing, like
so I had
your
none
feet.
of that. Yeah, I had none of that, and that was starting to infiltrate. It was starting to really become a requisite, like a requirement. So I didn't make that audition. But I was
So
watching.
What about Def Comedy Jam? At the end of Def Comedy Jam, when everybody could go on stage and dance?
Yo no fui. No, I never went to that.
Oh, so you never were part of that either. So now you're involved. So you're just trying to find your spot of what you want to do. You're very involved with the dancing. Now, talk to us now about how was the first time you saw Kwikstep? The first time you saw him? Like, I'm not saying that you saw him, you were like, wow, I want to be with him. But I'm saying the first time you met, like how was that? Tell us the story.
Yeah, it was I was already dancing with one crew, and he was dancing with USA dancers, and it was a festival, and my crew was getting ready to move on. So we let the spot open for the next group of hitters, which happened to be Clown, Rob on bass, and then Kwikstep and the other dancers there. And so before we finish, the other group, so they can hold the space, they jump into the end of our show. And that's when I first saw him. And I was like, oh, wow. Like he has these different moves. And because we have a B-boy in our squad. We had that. Of course, I've seen it.
And
But
what was
I
the
don't know.
squad name? What was the name of the squad?
Mine was the Breeze Team Transformers. So it was the merging of the
Oh,
Breeze
so it was
Team
Breed,
and the
like
Transformers.
Zone, with Zone and them?
Well, Zone was the Transformers with,
Mm-hmm.
you know, Tron and Steak and Toby. And so, you know, it was a different squad. And then the Breeze Team was J-Day and Nice and Pee Wee and
Yes.
Rude
Shout
Boy.
out to
And
all of those brothers.
so, yeah, it was two different squads. But then, you know, for that particular festival, we just merged and it was the
Now,
Breeze Team
Muggsy and
Transformers.
Meek, they weren't there yet? Muggsy and Meek?
Yeah, they were there. They were part of the float committee. So there's like, you know, it's a
Oh,
legacy. There's a legacy, like tribal, you know, there's three, I want to say, well, really four of the roots of what you see today out there hitting. But yeah,
yes.
so, you know, and Chukka and E and it's a lot. Bobby, those, that tribe was amazing. You know, Doug, Wayne and Poe, that whole family, you know, rest in peace, Ayan and Obi. So there was it was already there from 82 on. They were there and they were the first. By the time I come in 91, it's like, you know, a machine and they know when to hit and
Oh,
what time, what group to go where. It was fly, you know. And so our
so
group
you're at this
finishes.
festival. Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead, go
our
ahead,
group
go ahead.
finishes and then Kwikstep and well, USA comes in and that's when I first saw him. And I was really taken by just the way he did his moves because I guess, I don't know, just something about that. And maybe with El Destino, you know, the destiny of how we were going to be together later. And I didn't see him again until we went to Times Square to split up the money. He was there too. This time, I think he was with Storm and Swift Rock and one of their
Oh,
friends.
so that's when the Germans came
And
or to
I was
hit.
like, wow. I was like, who are these people? You know, like what? And
And,
it's so funny because I had never seen white boys break or do hip hop. So
and
it
you didn't even
really,
know they were from Europe, right? You didn't know you thought they were
yes,
white
yes.
guys.
No, no, no. They were, I knew they were, everybody knew they were German
Oh, oh,
because,
okay,
you know,
okay.
everybody knew, you know, because it's like you're presenting to the family, you know, so everybody kind of knew these two guys are from Germany. And I was just so impressed that this was happening outside of the US because I'm only in New York City. I'm only like in the
Yes.
Bronx. And so I, of course, wanted to ask questions, which I did. I approached them and I asked Kwikstep, like, how'd you meet them? And he told me a little bit about the story, but I was so impressed. And I was like, how do you know Europe? You know, and he was like, you know, I've been out there and we're trying to make sure that this dance doesn't die. And that just stuck with me that he had like a mission, even back then. And the more we talked,
Wow.
whenever there were breaks, we would sit down and talk. And he would tell me about the roots of hip hop and how, you know, the Nicholas brothers and salsa and capoeira. This is like an extension of what we were hearing from Chuck D. And, you know,
Yes, yes, yes.
that little chapter of conscious rap. It was very, very fast. If you blink, you're
So so
missing.
so he's opening Pandora's box of the hip hop culture to you right
Yes.
there and there.
Yes. And again, it wasn't foreign, Flash, because we'd heard, again, like I said, those conscious rap music songs. So there was something
Yes,
that
yes.
kind of was still there, but you know, gangster rap was coming in hard and we moved on. I moved on too. I didn't stick with the, you know, we have to be rebels y la revolución. I moved on too.
Yeah.
I was smoking weed, blunts, drinking, yeah, like that part ended. And so he circled me back to a consciousness. And y eso se me pegó. And I saw that I started to look at him in a different light. And then I was looking at Storm and Swift. And he wasn't Storm yet. He was Swipe Rock and
Yes,
Swift.
yes.
And they were kind of like, you know, still gaining moves and still meeting up with the people that Kwikstep would bring them to learn from. So it, you know, I had a lot of respect for Kwikstep, you know, and it wasn't until way later that then, you know, we ran into each other again, and he was like, "Oh, you should audition for this theater group, Get Original. We're going to Vienna." And I was like, "Psha, I don't."
Yes.
I was like, "I'm done. I'm done with dancing. I don't want to
What year?
deal with
What year
dance."
would you say?
94. January. It was
94.
like it was Three Kings Day, January 4th, And I
So
only
wait, so
know
I
it.
want to know. I want to know when was it that you hit the ground and you started learning how to break? Was it Kwikstep that started, or was it the
Yeah.
street, or how was
No,
it Kwikstep that said
streets,
this is how
no,
you
in the
do it?
streets, yeah, no, in the streets, nobody was teaching nobody.
So who were your
You
mentors
had
and
to come
teachers at
already. You
that
had to
time?
come. In order for you to dance with the group, you had to already have skills. There was no teaching.
Oh,
'Cause,
so who were your teachers and mentors at that time that you, from the top of the head, you could remember?
well, Quick Step for breaking, and then Quick Step brought me to his teachers like Chino or German, or it just he introduced me to Kid Freeze. He introduced me to all the people that
Oh,
fresh kids in Brooklyn,
so you're
Bandit.
talking about Chino, Incredible Breakers, Sammy, Brian, and all of them?
Yeah,
That side. That
yeah,
okay, okay.
yep. And then there was German, and then so it's like he brought me to the full scope of people that he knew were still doing it, but that had influenced him and that were amazing and nasty back in the day. And so after I auditioned, I made it to that group, and we went to Austria and came back. Then me and Kwikstep became boyfriend girlfriend, and then we were like, oh well. Kwikstep wanted to have this crew called Full Circle, which he started in '92. I came in '94. We ran into Violeta from KR3TZ's Harlem.
Yep. Shout
She
out to
had a
Violeta.
nonprofit. Yeah, she had a nonprofit since '87. So we were like, how'd you do it? And so she helped us out. So we applied. And by this time, we're renting space at Foretta's and at St. Mark's Place, which was a Narcotics Anonymous
I remember that
house.
spot.
It was a
I
house. It was
remember
a place.
Redis.
Yeah. And so, things started again to bubble up, and we started to attract more of the OGs. So Bam Bam, Louis New Wave. There was just it was like a resurgence. It was a revival. And young people started to come too. So Tony Bones was
Well,
showing
guess
up.
what? You just said young people. That's when
Yeah.
I come in.
Yeah.
Because that same year is crazy that, and it's actually 94 at the end of 94, and then 95. I believe it was probably springtime. You guys were teaching up in George Washington High School in Washington Heights.
Oh yeah.
I don't know when it was that you started, but I know when I saw you. I know
Yeah.
when I heard, I was sitting down in a classroom and my friends were like, I already had windmills. I don't know if you remember, but I already had windmills. I had
do.
flips. I already had all this power move because I already learned it through martial art, watching TV. I wanted to do everything that was extreme, but I
Yeah.
just didn't know it was called breaking or anything. So I'm in the
Oh, okay.
classroom. I remember I was in the law department, Mr. Green's class, and I'm sitting, and my boy, which you know who he is, and I'll mention his name, Geronimo.
Oh yes.
Geronimo,
Yes.
which he owns
Oh, yes.
Brooklyn Zoo.
Yes.
He's sitting down next to me and he's like, yo, you know the stuff that you were doing the other day that you were spinning? There's somebody like doing the same thing in a classroom up there.
How
And I
funny.
said, what? There's no way, no. Yeah, man. And he's like, this guy, he's like on his head and he's going really fast. And I'm like, no way. So I cut class and I was like, yo, I left classroom and I went upstairs and I could hear the you guys were playing. I never forget Expression. The song is called Expression. Expand your mind. It's like a
Expansion.
Expansion. I said expression.
Yeah.
Expansion.
Yes.
You guys were playing it, and I could hear that. Yeah, and I hear that, and I've never heard that type of music in my life. And I'm like, how are they listening to that? Because I already had some CDs that were electro funk, Planet Rock, Play at Your Own Risk, The Mexican, Cavern, like all that. It wasn't that song. So it was weird for me. I was like, why are they dancing to that? But then when I walked in, I immediately approached you and I was like, what is this? What's going on? Like, and I was so excited. You're like, yo, we teach here. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, I couldn't believe it. And then you guys invited me to start practicing. I remember what practice was it, but it was a practice. You guys had several practices. One of them was Foretta's that I met the Japanese Bboys that came with Gumby, Hungary, from Hungary, Ice, K-Mel was around. And then I remember you guys told me, yo, you want to be Full Circle Soldier, start doing shows with me? I was like, hell yeah. That was like the opening for me. Like, what? And then meeting Quick. And then, oh man, from there, it's crazy because Kwikstep and Bam Bam, I don't think you were there that day. They took me to Kingsbridge practice in the tennis courts.
Okay,
And they were
okay.
all practicing in the tennis courts, and they introduced me to Incredible Josh. He was a little kid.
Yeah.
Sammy, Brian, Eddie, rest in peace. All the incredible breakers. And for some reason, Floor Lords were there, which is Lino. It was only Lino, Flight, and Johnny Quest, the son.
Jonathan. Yeah.
Jonathan. It was just them. And Cheeky. You remember Cheeky?
No, I don't. I
Cheeky,
don't.
he's a little powerhead from, I don't
Okay.
know if he was down with them or whatever, but I
Okay.
know that
Okay.
we're all there. And
Okay.
from there, it opened, like you guys opened Pandora's box, because I was like, I didn't even know what was going on. But it was a crew called Living on Concrete, and I got put
Yeah.
down because they were from the Heights.
Yep.
They were
Yep.
in the Heights, and they saw me. They're like, "Yo, there's no other B-boys out here.
Right.
You're
Right.
the only one, and we need a power move B-boy," because all of them were
Yeah.
just, they were all like just footwork and style,
Footwork.
like
Nice.
none
Nice.
of them had power. And I was flipping, doing all this stuff, and they put me down with Living on Concrete. And
Yeah, but we didn't
so
have
that means I was
Ferrettas.
a senior.
Yeah, maybe, but we didn't have Ferrettas in like Ferrettas ended like 98. It ended, and then we were at
No,
Smith.
I'm saying when you guys went to high school, to George Washington
Oh
High School.
no, yeah, that might have been 95 because in 94 me
Yeah.
and Quick still weren't doing like school shows or anything.
No, 94. I'm
But
saying when I came
95,
in,
yeah.
when I came in, like looking at hip hop,
Okay,
I'm
okay.
saying
Yeah, yeah,
95. I saw you guys in George Washington High School.
Yeah, that's
And
definite.
then like once I got a little bit better, then I started going to Ferrettas. I
Yeah,
remember,
yeah,
I believe that's when I met Gumby and Ice, which they were hitting. And a few times they hit with me and K-Mel. I forgot who else was hitting.
Yeah.
But half the time some of us got locked up. And I remember, which now I remember that, which till this day, I talk to Technique about this. And I'm like, I don't know what year Technique went to New York, but that year he was supposed to meet up with you. And you gave him my number.
It was like 99.
So that was 99 when Technique.
When he came up. Because we knew him from the Pro-Am. So we met him 98 por ahí. We met him in 98 because we did
do you remember?
We did the Walt Disney Jam on the Groove performances, and he came there. And that's where we met. That was 98. And
because
then
you guys had Jam on the Groove, and you guys were killing it. You guys were like,
Jam on the Groove was 96. That was 96.
Yeah.
So from 96 to about 98, there was like Jam on the Groove tours, Jam on the Groove activities and work. And in 98, we went to Florida. And then that's when we really got close with Technique. And then he came up 99. And then 99, you were doing, the last show you did with us was Roseland.
My God, K-Mel.
That was the very last show you did
Troll.
Too Sweet was there. Too Sweet.
Remember Troll from Street Masters?
Yeah, I remember him. But the show had Too Sweet. It was Too Sweet, Jazzy J, you, Biko. I want to say Reverse.
Kid Quick. Yes.
Kid Quick. And that was the last show. And Mega. And that was the last show you did with us. It was at Roseland for some.
And I remember it was like, I don't know, it was like a crazy fashion sexual, I don't know.
Oh, that's the second one. That's the other one. That was like a rave. That one was a rave. It was like a rave.
So that's the last one that I did. That means that was the last one. Because I walked around and I'm like, what the hell are all these people naked in this room? Like sculptures. Right? Like there were sculptures like this. And then we performed on stage. I remember that was really dark and they had a lot of
dark.
Just very
It was a rave.
Weird.
It was a rave and it had like little plastic, like see-through installations with naked people on them. It was a definitely different vibe, but then we inserted the breakdance right in the middle of there.
Yeah, it was so, I was like, why are we doing this here? It's so weird.
Yeah. Well, we were down to just do it and represent and bring the, breaking vibe out into the world.
Which I loved. I never forget. I never forget.
So then right after that, Clown and Technique did a show with us at Ostos in October of 99. And that's when Kwikstep proposed to me and that's when Technique was breaking. He did a duet with Kwikstep. So it was like you all left, and then we got Technique and a couple other people.
Oh
Violeta was
wow.
definitely with us.
So now do
Renegade
you
was dancing with us.
yes. Do you remember when Technique? I don't know if this is the second time he came or the first time, but all I know, Technique calls me at my mom's apartment in the Heights,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Yo, I got this number from Rokafella. Something happened to her, and I gotta tell you when I get to your house." I was like, "What?
Okay.
Something happened to Rock?" And
Oh,
she's
sure.
like, "Yeah, she was hitting in the street. I don't know if they picked you up or something, or I don't know what
Probably.
happened." Like, do you ever get locked up for hitting in the street, like in the
Yeah,
late
we
90s?
did. But at the time that Technique was down, I wasn't hitting it at that time. No,
So what was it
we
that
didn't hit.
happened? Because he ended up chilling with me the whole day in my apartment because something happened to you. I don't know
I
what it
think it
was.
was mistaken identity. It was the only time that I was just picked up from the sidewalk. I looked like somebody, and they just put me in the van. It was crazy, and I had
Yeah.
ID, and they were like, "Oh yeah, of course you have ID. You do a lot of fraudulent ID theft." And I was like, "Ah." And then when they took me to the precinct and they showed me the picture of this person, I was like, "Mira, con el dentito y todo." She had a gap tooth and everything.
Kind
I
of
was
look
like,
like you?
she did, and she had the gap tooth and everything, but she didn't have
Oh,
the nose piercing. So I was like, well, she doesn't have a
wow.
piercing. And then it ended up it wasn't me. Once they fingerprinted me, boom, I was like, oh, but I
So it was
didn't show up
probably
to work.
that.
So I didn't show up to work. So I don't know if maybe Technique was supposed to meet me at that job. Y se quedó without working that day. So that's probably what it was. But
Yeah,
I
because
wasn't
to
hitting.
this day we're
Yeah,
trying
I
to
wasn't
figure
hitting.
out. Yeah, we were trying to figure out like
Yeah,
what was it, and we're like, yeah, like I see him a lot now here in Florida, and
yeah.
which he's doing a jam called Technical Knockout on this Saturday coming up, May 20th, and we were talking, and I was like, "Do you remember?" And he was like, "I remember that something happened to Rock, but we couldn't remember what it was
No,
because
that's
he
what it
stood
was.
there the." Oh,
That's what it
now
was.
I know.
I
I'm
wasn't
gonna
dancing on the
remind him.
street anymore. Yeah, I wasn't dancing on the
Yeah.
street anymore. By the time that Technique was living with us, I had a lot of different gigs, and I didn't have to go back. I haven't gone back to hitting in a very long time. And Zone, every
Which
now
is
and then,
so dope.
when he sees me, he's like, Rock, you should come now. It's much easier. It's like a story and a script, and then someone jumps over somebody. I was like, no, thank you. I did my time. No more concrete for me.
So I know,
That,
yes. So I know you did theater, you did everything,
yeah.
and yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Well, it was a few gigs we did, and
How
after that we
cool.
started just doing more stuff. Then I met Yaya. That's when Yaya we were tumbling for the show with you guys.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. He definitely
yeah,
had a
yeah,
lot of flips.
yes. Full Circle Soldier was big.
Yeah.
Like
It was,
I
I
could
mean,
imagine now.
it always had different like waves. So sometimes it was like people who were flipping, sometimes it was beatboxers. We were always like, just come and make sure that you're good. And that way you add to the show. So we were kind of like always embracing and welcoming people in, but then also giving history, giving them,
Yeah, you guys
knowledge.
definitely. Which I was just talking to my wife about that. We're gonna be 18 years together,
Huh.
and I was like, "Yo, Quickstick and Rockefeller. Since I've known y'all been like that couple that raised the bar for everyone in the world that we know.
Yes.
Anyone that has to do with a couple. Then later on, I remember Storm and his wife. That we were like, oh, okay, there's another couple that does that.
Yeah,
That
they were
has like
doing
that.
shows for a little bit. They did. I think it was
Yeah, but you guys.
Debbie D, and then before that it was Jazzy. Her name was Jazzy. Yeah, I mean it's like kind of safe because your partner, your spouse knows what it is you do and they do it too. But it's also hard because you have to figure out the balance, when are you shining and when am I supporting? When am I shining and when are you supporting?
Yes.
That stuff is, and then all the chores and the tasks and the emails, who's doing that? It's hard to last without feeling like I'm being used or
Yeah,
who's
yeah.
paying attention to me or so it takes a lot of talking and space, and you have to analyze like, okay,
What
was
year
it
you
me?
guys got married?
Did I mess up? Did he mess up? Who messed up? And
Yes, yeah.
admit
What
to
year
it.
you guys got married?
In 2000.
So it
And
was
we had 6 years
2000.
before that. So this is our 29th year together. um, so
Wow,
yeah, it's a lot.
congratulations. That
Thank
is
you.
amazing.
Yeah.
Now,
It's a
what
lot.
would be an advice you will give any couples out there that is watching the show that are partners as dancers? Doesn't have to be breaking. It could be just like
Yeah, right.
just what would be something that you would say to everyone out there to stay together and like some words of encouragement, advice
Yeah.
like that you would say right now.
I would just say try to analyze who needs what at this moment. Is it your project or is it my project? Are we doing this together? Then what's the plan? You're taking care of what tasks? What am I taking care of? What tasks? That has to be in the front. Because if not, sometimes, you lean back and someone else does a lot. And then they feel like, they're being used or they're being overworked and you're just showing up to dance or whatever. So I think you have to figure out if we're both going to a project together, what are you responsible for? What am I responsible for to make it happen? And if it's your project, how can I support it? I don't have to be the shining. I have to support that. And then if it's my project, how can you support what I'm doing? Because in the end, the money comes to one bank. It comes to one unit. So as long as the
Yes.
money is coming, it don't matter if it's my money today or if it's your money tomorrow, it's ours. It comes together and we go on vacations and we have nice things, to enjoy together. So in the end, that competitive stuff has to stop. But you do have to figure out who's doing the dishes or who's going to email the resumes and the headshots. Who's going to, because you have to be a team, be the team, go team.
Yes, and so now how will you guys deal with, in the sense, let's say you're both audition for like a movie and they want to do
Yeah,
the movie in New Zealand and
yeah,
they
diatre.
choose you to be in the movie.
Yeah,
Like, how
diatre.
do you work those things? And they're like,
Yeah,
Rock, we
yeah.
want you and you're gonna be out there for 8 months. How do you work those
No,
things out?
yeah,
Do you
no.
do you
I definitely wouldn't do, or he wouldn't do a long extended period of. No, we wouldn't do that. One, we don't have kids, so we need each other, And if we had kids, maybe the other partner can take care of the child, but then it's a burden on the child as well. So all of those things have to kind of be talked about first, and how does it make that other person feel? Because to just leave to go do something for 8 months, it's tough. It's tough to expect,
But what if
your.
it's a great opportunity that it will change your life, both of your lives? Like, let's say
I
something
don't
that you're
know.
like,
It
yo,
hasn't
if I
happened
do
yet.
this.
Yeah, that hasn't happened yet. But when it does, I'll call you and be like, "This is how we did it." But
Okay, okay,
it
okay.
definitely hasn't happened yet. And the only thing I could say is that if it is a very well-paying, like $1 million, like let's say it's a movie and I'm acting, and I don't know, God, God bless us, I'm getting $1 million. Then with that money that comes from being on set and shooting, I can fly that, my spouse in to see me two
There
or three
you
times,
go.
you know.
That's
So
what I
that's
was
one
thinking.
way.
That
Yeah, that's one way to make it work. But you really have to weigh out how that is going to impact your spouse, because you're one. And
yes,
so this whole,
I
artist
love it.
thing, yeah, you really have to protect and defend the unit and the love, because we're sensitive and we're vulnerable. And even when we're here together all the time, there's things that shift. It could shift the emotion, if someone's talking about us, or if someone jerked us and didn't pay us, or like those are things that also affect our mental health and our emotional health. So imagine being away for 8 months, and mucho. So
Yeah.
you just got to protect the bond, protect the relationship at all costs, and talk to each other. So you're not imagining what that person feels. You have to know what that person's feeling.
Definitely. Now, moving on, I know you've done so many different projects. One of the most highlighted projects in your life, I'm going to say, that is All the Ladies Say, because I've
Yeah.
been hearing that for so long. Talk to us a little bit about that. How did it start for you? Like, what made you say, you know what, I got to do this? Like,
I
tell me a
mean,
little bit about that.
to be honest, like being a B-girl, just it doesn't bring the same amount of value and respect that being like a Kwikstep or a Flash or a B-boy does. It's just gonna be different because it is a male created platform. Y'all created it for yourselves to have a space where y'all can, have ownership and control and, be with each other. And that's healthy. We need that, and at that time that hip hop was coming out, it was political. Men couldn't really, they had no space. The civil rights movement had ended. They had assassinated a bunch of people. So y'all needed a space to go and, work it out. So
like the outlet.
That's it. And so we came in to support, but then we were like, oh, wait a minute, I can rock a mic. I could rock the floor. I could rock a spray can. I rock some turntables. So then, of course we had to come with the skills. You got to, not just be good for a girl. We had to also be amazing and add to the power of hip hop. So I get it. I totally get it. But, being a B-girl is always going to be just less until there's more of us equal to the amount of y'all. And until we do more contributing to the dance, it's still going to be like we're less. And so when the opportunity came to do a tour for Martha Cooper's B-Girl book called We Bgirls, where, I hit the floor running, brought Kwikstep with me and a camera person. We went to 6 cities and we had panel discussions to talk about the same thing I just said. How does it feel to be a B-Girl? When do you feel awesome? When do you not feel so awesome? And a lot of stuff came out, a lot of stuff we didn't put in the movie because it was kind of personal, And that was 2005, 2006. So it was way before this whole rise of the B-Girl. The rise of the B-Girl is before that. And it was great. And we got to encourage each other, empower each other. Graffiti writers showed up to the discussions who were women. It was great. And then when I came back, I had a bunch of little mini DV tapes. So we asked around and we ended up getting a good editor. She was working for the Hip Hop Association, Melissa Alto. We had 2 other editors as well, but Melissa was the one that stuck. She's still around. She just showed up to the screening at the New York Poets Cafe with the first Emcee, Sha Rock was a special guest. So Melissa really helped us to piece the film together. And in 2011, we released it at Lincoln Center with a screening and with Third World Newsreel. They do a lot of political documentaries. So this one kind of fit in because it was like about women in hip hop and, how does it go? And since then, I screen it every Women's History Month. Sometimes
Can I show the trailer real quick? Can I show the trailer?
Yeah, of course you can. Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
Boom,
There's a
there.
few. Which one are we looking at here? Okay. Oh, that's the very first one.
Yes, I want to go to the past. I told you. Give a little flashback.
That's the one that was called Bgirl Sit Downs. It didn't even have a title yet. Yep.
Which is so
She's from
dope.
Brazil, from London. Yep.
This is a project where they would host
Lady Champ back there. Oh my God, look at me back
then.
then.
And other female artists.
Oh my goodness. That's Zuri from Puerto Rico on the graph. G.I. Jane from Jersey City, MBK. Wepa.
We talk about the issues that affect women in relation to the men.
And I used to ask them
Wow.
to teach me, but they
Lady
wouldn't teach me
Champ.
as a girl.
It's so inspiring because you guys are all agents. Seeing you
Aruna.
it's freaking amazing.
Little do they know I'm better than them now.
Aiko.
I
Wepa.
love this.
This was 2006.
Look like me, you're not trying to look like the next person, you're trying to develop what you have and
G.I. Jane.
your own style.
Asia One.
Aruna, I'm from Rotterdam, Holland. I've been breaking since 1998 and I hope to be breaking until I die.
Yeah, she's still breaking. She's still breaking.
That's dope.
So it's not like anybody needs to be robots and try to like look the exact certain way. Make sure just you're using your whole body, arms, shoulders, head, everything. And a lot of the misconceptions with this dance is
Severe.
dancers because
B-Girl Severe.
they see too many people going like this or something like, and they don't think you're dancers. So we need to like focus on the realization we are dancers.
Bgirl Rokafella. I'm here because I wanted to be a part of the panel.
You and her don't age. Y'all look
Yeah. How
so
funny.
young. Oh.
Aiko.
Y'all always look so young, yeah.
It's weird, right? I think the dance keeps us young.
Like an honor for me to be able to meet dancers, especially OG dancers
I hope he's still dancing, this guy. I haven't seen him.
So you guys are motivating men now in this time.
Right. Yeah.
Let the girls know that, you know, number one, they can do whatever they want to do.
Que vendetta.
As long as they do it for themselves. Not
Is she still dancing?
because they want to be seen.
I heard she is,
Whatever. But for
but I haven't seen any footage or anything.
Yeah, she
was a
dope.
beast.
She's always been
She-
dope. Yeah,
She was
man.
a beast, yo, yeah.
Because I have to sit there and watch
Mira, 2000, wepa.
Oh, Lady Champ ain't playing.
Yeah, yo.
so bad.
It's not even about to hang up your artwork. I took artwork out there, and it's like,
Oh, you guys are getting emotional and everything.
Yeah, well, she was feeling bad because she wanted to paint, but they were like, you gotta wear a dress.
we
And
are
you
the
gotta,
first
you know,
ones to put up
Lucha, another graffiti writer.
respect is the bottom line.
Lady Pink was there.
You know, show that.
That's so dope.
She's the first.
for, but like, and I'm a grown woman.
There you
but
go.
I know
Uh-huh, belly mills.
these baby girls still have the same shit. It's incredible. That's why I
Wepa, what?
Hey, Windmill 90.
Flare,
What's
Flare
that?
90,
There
yeah.
you go. There you go.
Hey,
You know,
no
I think the
hand
hardest
in
thing
it.
for women, in particular,
I
with
look
dance,
different though
is
back
that
then,
we
todavía.
all the other elements.
Mucho
Nah,
cachete.
you look the same.
Ajá,
You
más-
probably
más
look at
cachete.
yourself.
I think I have more cheeks.
Sexual favors are supposed to be submissive and they're supposed to serve at all times.
because you know why it's so easy for dudes to tear us apart because we do it to ourselves.
That's
So
right.
if we want respect from anybody, we gotta all come together.
And
That's
that's
right.
not their fault. It's like
Get too fly,
generational,
the graffiti
you know?
writer.
And I just want to pose this question: like, how do we, in a sensitive, tactful way,
Tactful way.
address these?
Talk to these girls and be like, come on.
Bring them in.
Love it,
sit
love
down.
it, love it.
That's
yeah,
what it was.
yeah.
That's what it was. We then called it All the Ladies Sing.
Shout out to
'cause-
all the Bgirls in the world. I
Yes,
am
and
a
there's so many
feminist.
now.
I am all about supporting women and rise to
are.
the top.
You
I've
are.
always been that person and I love it. I
Yes,
love
yes.
what you're
Thank
doing,
you.
Rock. It's
Thank you.
amazing. And
Thank you.
I know later on you did more because I know you
We
guys came
did.
like
We did.
with a part 2, right? Didn't you guys do like
We're working on
something?
part 2. We released a couple of things, then the pandemic happened. We had a couple of fundraiser battles. So, you know, but to make a movie is a lot. I got a lot
Yeah.
of funding. Yes, I got a lot of funding and support for this one. As you see, from 2005 to 2011, ya son 6 años. That's 6 years of like,
Yeah.
you know, getting grants, pero from 2011 to now, it's been a challenge to get the part 2. But anyway, I don't say it's impossible. We're gonna work on it, but it's hard.
And
It's
so many things you've done from then. And I
Oh, yeah.
know it's kind of hard to capture so
Yeah,
many
yeah, yeah.
shows, so many
No, I
things
know.
you've done.
Yeah.
I remember we used to do a show. What was that college that you would do it every year? I did it like 3 years. It was
Was
it was a
Mama's Hip Hop
college.
Kitchen?
No, before.
No.
This is like early 2000 before I moved. You
Oh.
guys were doing a college. I don't know if it was Queens College, but it was a college. Yeah, I would
Oh,
perform
bueno.
the whole show. It was a full circle show.
Oh,
Like
wow.
and I was part of it. Quick, you even Arson was there. Pesci at that time.
I don't know. We've done so
Damn, I
many
can't-
shows, Flash. So I don't know.
Well, I'm gonna go through my mini DVDs and I'm gonna find it and hopefully play it
You're
here.
so
But
funny.
now moving on through the years because hip hop things change.
Yeah.
In the current state of hip hop, what is something you would like to change?
I guess careers. We don't talk about careers. We just think compete, compete, and that's it. But there's so much more that branches out from your knowledge, especially when you compete. There's a lot of knowledge in there, a lot of experience, a lot of navigating different, you know, situations. So there can be so many things that you can do as a dancer. Let's not just say breaker, B-girl, but as a dancer, there's so many ways that you can branch out and add to the community. If you know, take interest in some things, like this show is one of them, you know, which is helping to bring knowledge and history. But, you know, you could also write a book. You could make a movie like I did. You could be a commentator about the current things that happen in the community. You can, you know, be a therapist for injuries that happen when you dance. How do you recover? There's so many things you can do. You can write a play, you can write music, you can make music for breaking. You know, there's just so many things that you can do.
You could represent as an attorney for b-boys and b-girls and dancers when they, you
You
know,
could, but then you
entertainment
have to go to
attorney.
school. But then you have to go to school, so that takes away a little bit of
Yes,
time. I'm saying
yes,
like
it does.
right
Oh,
from
meaning,
here, like
okay, I
right
see
from
what you're
here,
saying.
you could go into theater. You could be like a dramaturg. You could be a consultant for like ad agencies to talk about, help them understand hip hop and breaking the streets, guys. You could be a consultant. You could be a designer. You could design break clothing for training or for performing, whatever. Be a choreographer. Hay tanta cosa. It's like a huge list. And I know you said that, you know, me and Quick put the bar high, but it's that we kept evolving. We kept testing and trying new things. And at this point, with all the internet and equipment and access, this generation can go way further. Y'all can go so much further than we did. And that's great. No jealousy here.
Yes,
Just go do it.
and it's beautiful because I was just talking to my wife, and then she's like, so if you started breaking around 93, 94, but you met everyone else in the culture, will you say rock is in the same generation with you? And I'm like, I honestly don't know, because I
I
remember I
mean,
already was, you know, like you're older than me, but I'm saying I was already a dancer. Like I was New Jack swinging, I was some
yeah,
house dancing,
yeah.
but I just didn't know your background. When I met you, I thought you were already like 10 years deep in it because you were already so official. Like your
But I,
movement was like you.
in a sense, like I started in '87. I don't think you were
That's what I'm
dancing in
saying.
'87. So if I
No,
start
I was
my,
dancing hip hop, like random,
yeah,
you know, stuff
yeah.
like that, but
So I wouldn't
not
say, I
breaking.
wouldn't, yeah, I would never include my talent shows when I was 10, 11. I would never include that in my professional, you know, trajectory. I started '87. That's the first time someone said, come and do background dancing for me after they saw me in a club. Now, in order for me to be that good to get picked, hand selected, then yeah, I had to have been doing something. So clearly, I was dancing
So
around the
what about
way,
as a
talent
B
shows.
girl?
No, as a
As a
Bgirl, it's
B girl.
94. It starts at 94. That's when I first started to train 3 times a day, 3 times a week, 3 hours at a day. That was when I started to break, 94 January. So that's
Wow.
my beginnings. But prior to that, I had
Yeah.
already been performing music video, blah, blah, blah. I had
Like
already
you
been in the
said, you already
game.
auditioned for the Fly Girls, all that
Yeah,
stuff.
I was in the game already, you know, but breaking, you know, and to tell you the truth, like because I was born when it was emerging, I was already like absorbing what was going on. I was a spectator, I wasn't dancing yet, you know, and even those first years of breaking, I really didn't consider myself yet a Bgirl because I wasn't done. Like I had maybe
Well,
one
for me, you
windmill,
was a B
you
girl.
know.
As soon as I met you, you were already B girling. You
Bueno,
already had it all. Like
I
for me, it was
appreciate
like,
that. I appreciate
and
that.
and think about this. If you really go back to 94, 95, if
Yeah.
you look around, there was a few little crews and a few little b-boys that were still doing it.
Yeah.
Who were the B girls? You,
No, there
Honey,
weren't any. Me and Honey,
yeah, like
Lady Champ in Chicago, and then in the West Coast, Asia One. It's the same timeline. It's like there was a
yes,
resurgence. There was a little bit
yes,
of a resurgence that happened. You know, Kwikstep was in um, Chief Rocker. I forget what year with that, but that's before '94. And that's
yeah, it
from the
was
Lords of the Underground. He was
Lords in the
breaking
Underground. He came
in
out.
that.
I saw that video.
So if you look at the time for when that song came out, that's before '94. And so breaking was like dying, but still showed up here and there. And he
That's
was
right.
definitely somebody who was there, always there. He showed up in Moni Love's Work It Out music video. He was, you know, there's another video he shows up, but he's popping in that one. So it's like on life support. He always says breaking was on life support. Like, you know, the heartbeat that goes like that. That's where breaking
Yes.
was. And he was in Europe. So there was something happening. It's just in the States, it wasn't popular, you know. And until Foretta's, when everybody's seeing each other, that's when everybody's like, oh, we got to do this. Because now you see each other. If not, you're just in this little club or you're in that little school and there's something to do, but it's not really gaining any type of momentum because there's no jobs. Where are you going to go do it? So thank God that there was like a place to come together and be like encouraged. And you know, Supreme Beings, Breaks Crew, Step Fiends. Those
Yes,
are the
Step
first
Fiends for
crews.
sure.
Those are the first crews that were like, "Yo, we're doing this," you know. And
Yeah.
then all
Ready
the
to Rock
old
was there too. Ready to Rock was there too because
Ready to
when
Rock
I
came a
came
little
in,
later because I think Smirk and like it came from Crazy Legs, you know, like the Crazy Legs and Kwikstep and Ken Swift were doing theater shows in New York
well,
City already.
I had Smirk on the show. He told me that it was Bomb Five that created Ready to Rock, and
Okay,
bless the name of the crew, because
nice.
I remember seeing Smirk in '95 at a spot called The Spot that Bomb Five used to throw on 17th Street in the city,
Yeah,
and we were
yeah,
all. It was kind of like a gallery, like an art gallery. That's like
yeah,
one of the first classy graffiti art gallery things he used to do. And I
yeah.
remember meeting them down there. And when I will ask around, I was like, yo, what crew's out there? They will be like Ready to Rock, Rock Steady Crew, Full Circle, like Step Fiends, but Dynamic Rockers, but not really. But there was
No,
so many
yeah,
different little things. Like they came back again later. Like it was kind
yeah.
of like what I was listening to, because I will ask, I'll be like, what about over here? What are, because you know, I'm interested in knowing where's who, like who's
Yeah, but
doing
at
what.
95, in 95, no, it's still, it
Yeah, it
wasn't.
was like kind of
No, there
nobody
was,
around, right?
95. I could tell you, 95, there was nothing. It was just whoever
Yes.
was in Get Original, who was Ken Swift, Quickstep, Crazy Legs.
Yes,
That's
you're
it.
right.
There was, if there was a show or something, yeah, then maybe they will go to a club or an opening or and make an appearance. But nobody was breaking, and it wasn't until later. I really gotta say, like, you know, por ahí 97, 96, that people were, maybe you would see it, and then it picked up, because by the time
Yes.
we left Foretta's 98, we went to transitioned over to Smith. Ja, Step Fiends was in the club.
Yeah.
We were
Alfred E.
seeing
Smith. You
we
guys
were
had that
seeing
practice there with Too Sweet,
yeah, yeah, because of Too Sweet, he helped to set that up. Yeah,
which it was
I
great.
think
That practice was amazing.
it was one of the first open practice. Foretta's was the first, and then
Yes.
this was like, everybody can be here. Just sign up, register for the little, you know, Parks and Recreation membership, and then you're in. And it was huge. It was a huge gym, and you could go. You could learn from me and Quick. You could practice routines with your crew in that corner. It was a really good. And we tried. Me and Quick tried to have like some type of training, you know, discipline. But after a while, we let it go because it's really hard, you know, because people keep like, they don't show up today, they come on Friday, they
And
didn't come.
plus, you guys have to pay bills and have to do shows too, create your own work,
Yeah,
create your routine,
right,
take care of the
right.
house. Like you guys
Yeah, yeah,
have your own life. And
yeah.
plus,
Right.
you guys were the adults. We were the
We
kids.
were,
Like,
we were,
you
we
guys are the
were.
adults. And some of us lived in mom and dad's house, so we didn't really
I
care about paying
know,
bills. We
I
just want to learn how
know.
to break. And
It's
you guys were
so
like the ones
true.
doing your thing, and we're like little kids. Like, how do they? I used to ask myself, going back home, like, so they live doing this? Like, how do they
We
do
pay our
this?
bills.
It was,
Yeah,
yeah, like
it was
it was like
crazy.
foreign. It was foreign to me,
Mm,
which I ended up learning it from you guys, and I
yeah,
appreciate to this day.
yeah,
I've never
yeah.
worked a 9 to 5 in my life. I continue either doing shows, breaking, and DJs,
Yes,
doing something
yes,
involved
yep,
with hip hop. And I'm
yep.
so glad, you know, thank God that it was always that way. But I always thought of you guys, how y'all did it. You
Thank
guys
you.
had the formula. That formula,
I
you guys
mean,
always had it.
yeah, but also being brave enough to try something new. So that if someone said,
Yes.
"Oh, do a theater piece," shit, how do you do a theater piece? Vamos, you know, and then you watch a theater piece and you're like, "Oh, okay, I get. You gotta have a story. Bad guy, good
Yep.
guy. You know,
Yep.
okay, some lighting. You know, and then you go and
Yes.
do it.
Yeah.
And maybe the first time you do it, not so good. But the second and the third time, oh, you know. So I think that's what I would like for dancers in hip hop, but particularly b-boys and b-girls, to be able to feel brave, try something, experiment, do something, because the dance is always going to be there, but it's not. It can't stay the same way for you. Not, you know, like nothing stays the same. We're all
A-
changing. So move
Absolutely.
move with it, move with the time, and evolve and pay the bills. You can do it. So that's what I hope for the dancers, because to this day, people don't expect too much from us, and that's not cool. We have to change the way the
Yes,
perception is.
and that's the follow-up question. What is something you can contribute to the culture to make it better? And now you know you've already been contributing to the culture. You already
Right,
been.
right.
But I'm saying,
Yeah,
what's
thank you.
something
Yeah.
for the world out there to know that you could still, let's say somebody in Europe that wants to do some crazy battle and they don't know who you are and they want to hear you out right now. What will be something you could tell them that you could contribute right now to the culture just to make it better? What will that be?
Well, lately we've been doing this project called United Hip Hop Vanguard, and it's about uplifting the history and the roots of your town, your local town. Everybody's going to learn New York
Oh,
City history. Everybody's going to know New York.
okay.
And thank you for doing the study. Thank you. But now in your town, who were the first? Who were they inspired? Did they watch Beat Street? Did they not watch Beat Street? Was it somebody else who taught them? Where were the first practices? Who did the first shows? And then who did the first battles? That's important. That's important because that's going to help your community to last longer and have more respect in relation to the arts community in your state or your country. Because if they're just still looking at you like, oh, it's a youth culture, it's only for the young people, then there's no respect for the roots. So the same way we look up to the Nicholas brothers, Capoeira, Bruce Lee, we look up to them because they contributed to this. We look up to the very first crews that existed out there, the TBB, and all of the first crews. Y'all got to do that now too. You have to start looking who was first in my town in Brazil, who was first in Berlin, who was first in Paris, and how do you bring them to it? The same questions you're asking me, Flash, about what happened when you were 10 years old. Ask those first, porque ya están viejito, and maybe and maybe they'll forget. So it's good if you remind them. It's good to include them and to make them feel important. They did something that now you're benefiting from. So make a museum exhibit, make a movie about it, connect the dots, because everybody's going to be like, I was the best. I was the best. You got to kind of
Yes.
connect the dots, because some people are going to be like, it was me. But there was
And
three
letting
other
people know about the culture, the underground, because
Yeah.
the Olympics is coming next
It's
year,
coming.
which
Yep.
that's my question. What is your
Yeah.
opinion on breaking going to the Olympics?
I think it's going to look and feel different. I would have preferred it to have more authenticity to it. But right now, the people who are running it are really interested in just getting breaking into the Olympics. They're not interested in standing up for the culture, having ownership of the music and the vibe. That part's not happening because they just want to get it in. I feel like if we didn't do it now, it's not going to happen, because corporations don't bend later. You have to negotiate that at the front, right at the ground level, before you build the building and the product. So we're going to see, because I'm not in those conversations. We're going to see what happens with this first go round. And, hopefully from there we can do some, troubleshooting and some shifting and fix a couple
So
of
let's
things.
say someone calls, because I do this show and I'm trying to capture history. I'm not
Yeah.
really current in knowing like what's going on. I'm not
Yeah.
involved in no groups with Olympics or anything that has to do with that, because
Yeah.
I'm focused. I'm capturing, the elders' history and just things
Yeah.
from the past. So then
Right.
the young people, when they look at the show and they want to know about Rockefeller, Kwikstep, or anyone, they're gonna go, oh, okay, so those are the judges for this, or so
Right.
they know who you guys are, because
Right.
young kids now. I had Jigs on the show and he mentioned something so crazy that I was like, I never saw it that way. When I asked him what in the current state of hip hop culture, what is something you would like to change? He says, well, now most of the kids are not focused on culture. They're not focused on community work. They're focused on just learning how to break, nothing else.
Right.
Us 90s generation, we were looking at you guys and anyone before ya and learning the culture. Who is
Right.
that crew? Oh, who's
Right.
wearing those colors? The name buckle. Oh, how you gotta dress, like that culture, community festivals, like
Right. Yeah.
uniting.
Yeah.
So when he mentioned that, I was like, wow, I never saw that these kids now want to just learn the air flare and the headspin in the 90s so
Right.
they can make it to
Right.
the Olympics.
Right.
So
right.
now being in that sense, the Olympics is out there. Let's say one day they call you and go, "Hey, Rock, I know who you are. I've studied you for the past 20 years. I would like for you to answer this question. Name 3 things to make this official for the Olympics, because I know there's a
Wow.
lot of things missing. What would be
Yeah.
3 things that you would say? You have to have this, you have to have this, and you have to have this. What would that be?
I mean, it couldn't just be a phone call. I'd have to meet with whoever the committees are. It can't just be a phone call and I'm just giving you my observations. You know, we have to sit and we have to talk. Like, am I being paid to be your culture liaison or consultant? Because I can't just give you what you want. It's just not like that. You can't come into my village and take, you know, the rituals and the oils
I
and the beads.
love that. You
Can't
said
do
it.
that.
I love it.
Yeah, you know, when
Love
you
it.
come into a village, you kind of want to ask, like, you know, are they awake now? Do they eat? What do they eat? Should I keep my sneakers on? Because you're in a Native American village. So hay que haber respeto. So that would be the first thing.
I love that analogy. I love it.
I'm just saying that it can't just be a phone call, but with all the conversations we've had from the United Hip Hop Vanguard, the Zooms that were happening from 2020 during the pandemic to even today when we go out and do these cultural activations with Breaking, people want to have a dinner. They want to see footage. People want to hear original classic breakbeats. So YouTube has to be able to release that block that it has on it, where we have to break to beats that are similar and created in a studio. You know, we have to have a moment where breakers are breaking just the breaks. And maybe you don't broadcast it. Maybe it's just for the people who attend. And we get to feel the power of those Black and Latino and even white musicians from the 70s. There was something being communicated to us that made us break. Nowadays, there's bands out here that are rocking. We need to be able to, you know, punch in and support those songs and the breaks in those songs. So, you know, it's like music, you know, coming together, generational dialogue. We need the styles to come from us, not from Nike. You know, we
there you go. I love that.
You know, the people who are commentating, a lot of suggestions have come through these conversations and these like visits that we do, that, you know, the commentating is kind of stale. It doesn't really feel hip hop. It feels rehearsed. It feels like, you know, it's on a piece of paper and they say it. So there just has to be more developing of the sense, the authenticity of breaking, if it really is going to be hip hop. Because if it's not, then it's just dance and points and that's it. And it's a sport and it's money. Ya. Nike, Adidas, you know, and that's it. So it's no different from gymnastics or basketball, but we all know it is. And so I hope that if that phone call comes in, I can bring some of the people who I've been listening, you know, from the community. We can sit, we can all get paid to do consultation and to continue the relationship. Not, okay, got your ideas, peace, you know, because that's happened too with some of the, you know, other competitive one-on-one platforms out here. You go in, you say an idea, and they're like, okay, here's $500. And then you don't continue to help to make this better. You know, it has to be a relationship. Veremos a ver lo que pasa. You know, I'm always open to help, but you gotta help the community. Like
definitely,
the money has to
like
come.
You said, the
it has
village.
to come to me.
You have to speak to the spokesman from the village, and like you said, which is beautiful. Now, I'm the type of person that I sit back and watch. I don't have my hand in the cookie jar with the Olympics or anything. I'm just watching. I'm observing. You know, I have a business to run, and I'm focusing on my fam. But I'm always doing events out here. I keep the hip hop culture alive in Orlando, Florida, and I'm always supporting here and there. But what I realize, I sit down, and when I have a few, you know, I don't sit down through Zooms or anything, but when I hear and I listen, I'm like, why is not Kwikstep, Rokafella, all these people not involved? Like, because like all these names that are my heroes, because, you know, I've always believed that, you know, my mom and dad were there, but when it came to motivation, inspiring, and things that I could do the impossible, you guys were it. But I'm sitting down at home. I'm not getting the inspiration from my dad. Of course, that's my dad. I love him.
Yeah,
And
God
my
bless
mom
him.
and my brothers and sisters.
And God
Yeah,
bless her
but
too. Yep.
yes, but when I will go out, practices, shows, you
Yeah.
guys were the one building the foundation for me to
Yeah.
become someone. So
Thank you. Thank you.
when I
Thank you. It's
hear
good to
these
hear that.
things, it kind of irritates me a little bit because I hear these names that I've never heard in my life that
I
just
know.
started like 10 years ago that they
That's
probably
true.
said that they were in the 1970s, but I don't know. I wasn't there.
Right.
I wasn't
don't
there.
know. I
But
wasn't there for the
yes,
interview. That's for sure.
yeah,
But they
exactly.
got the job.
So,
They got the job.
yeah, so when they have the job, I'm like,
Yeah.
how does this work? Like, who's in
Well,
charge?
again, but
Like,
again, like I'm saying, I think that in order to work with a Nike, a Red Bull, whoever, Sony, I'm gonna throw all of the big corporations out there, Google, there's like a certain type of person that will just want to get in. You know, their mentality is, let's just make this happen. I'm here. I can do whatever it is you're asking and requiring.
and
And then
some are
there's
businessmen that know about business only.
Yeah, but those
And you
people
know
have
that
they have their
push.
own negotiations too. Those business
That's what I'm
people that you're
saying.
talking
So
about.
they come
But
in.
for us,
They could,
yeah, but for us, we are different, and so we want to say, how is this benefiting all of us, not just me, and not just the team, and not just your corporation. So that's a different type of mentality. That's, most people would say we're kind of troublesome because we don't just want to go with what they want. We're
yeah,
like,
and you
okay,
mentioned something. You said the village. So
right.
if you have, like, it will bother me if I see someone representing the village that has never lived in the village, that doesn't know nothing about the village, that doesn't know about the food, that doesn't know about how you guys talk, how you guys walk, how you guys dress,
But it
all these
happens a
things. So
lot.
then,
It happens a lot,
yes,
Flash. And not just for breaking, for a lot of things. So unfortunately, all I can do is focus on my circle, my city. If I get hired to go to Brazil or whatever, I'm bringing this message there. I'm only in charge of what I can control. What I can't control, I'm still training people. I'm training one girl.
I know that.
Yep. Kwikstep is teaching and training another young woman from Brooklyn. So we're doing our part. We're going to give them culture, but also give them the moves and give them the strategies, because we're not just going to be like, I'm not involved. Okay, I'm involved, but whatever happens, I'm still locally very entrenched and moving mountains, saving lives. I'm still going to be doing that. And not for nothing, I'm inspired by the people who are still holding down, other cultural practices, like those studios that you see that are still teaching Taekwondo or Jikundo, or they're teaching, salsa or West African dance.
Yes.
I'm inspired by them because they're still doing it, even though there really isn't a mainstream nothing. That the fact that there's still merengue bands, there's still salsa bands. Why are they still doing it if it's not on the radio right now? It's all reggaeton now. But these people believe.
You just mentioned that you're teaching all this. I want to show you this right here, which is so dope. I want to lower the music. Boom. And so freaking beautiful, like always.
I remember this one.
Yeah, so like you're teaching, and you're talking about teaching and all that. And I want to highlight that on you.
I'm a poet, I'm a singer, I'm an actress, and recently a filmmaker. I represent all that is good coming from the Bronx.
Oh,
the point. I was just there today.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, it's changed a little bit.
Honestly, the last time I went to the point was when you guys were there back in the days.
Yeah, that is a very long.
Long time.
Hey.
And what I love is that you teach popping, you teach African dancing, salsa, you teach it all.
I do, just to make people a little more expanded, so they can go out.
Release a way to feel good at the end of the weekend, And so for me, it's just natural. I just never thought it was going to be a career. And so I didn't know it would be my career until I was about 16 and went to my first club.
17.
And someone said, I want you to do background dance for me. That's when I think little by little, the pieces of the puzzle started to shape. and take form. And then I was like, this is what I'm doing forever. And I was growing up in New York City at a time when hustle and punk rock and disco and salsa and hip hop, oh my God, breaking and popping, all these styles were like emanating, and so I was exposed to all of it. So I
There you go.
grasp a whole lot of different
That's the
techniques and
locking.
styles at that time and since.
Oh, there you go. A little
Espérate,
freestyle.
espérate. Look at this. Oh, oh my goodness. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
You're in your own
Oh.
world right there, girl. I love it.
am. I don't care what nobody's doing. This is what
Definitely
I'm
a place
doing. How funny.
Yeah,
How funny.
which is so dope. But moving on. I know we don't have that much time, but this is what we're gonna
Okay,
do
okay.
right now. Do you feel there's a lack of respect for the elders in the hip hop culture, whether it's coming from the own
Ay,
elder itself or the
it's
young
hard.
generation? Talk to me about that.
Okay, that part is hard, okay, because depending on people's outlook, like how are they when they come into hip hop, what do they want? Everybody wants something, right? I wanted all the moves, I wanted to perform, make money. Eventually, then I changed, I wanted to kind of preserve this and provide something for the next generation. If people are coming in at this moment because they just need to make money, they're hungry or they're being bullied or something at home is just not right, they're not thinking about nobody, and that's okay because that's their entry point and that's where they're going to be able to, release some of the issues and problems that they're carrying. As you get older in this, then you're either gonna become accountable for all that fame and all that popularity, or you leave. You leave because that's it. You got what you wanted, and you're moving on. I think for the OGs, especially the triple OGs, the ones who were there at the beginning that got jerked in the contracts, in the commercials,
Will you
in
say
the
the
movies.
70s OG, the 70s OG, or the 80s OG?
The 80s ones. Well, triple
Okay.
OGs, 70s, but they also got jerked too. And then the 80s, because the 70s feel like the 80s took everything and didn't give credit. The 80s got jerked. The 80s got jerked. So they're bitter, And then the 90s was kind of like not so much happening, but we were like, oh, we got to preserve this. Oh, espérate. Hollywood tried to do what? ¿Qué? No, I'm here to like make sure
Yeah,
that
we will stand up more. We will stand up
we
more
would
for
stand
it.
up more. The 2000s, then it came with the Red Bull, came with America's Best Dance Crew. Había un poquito más there was like a little bit more, access and potential to
I think
to
that's
do
when
more.
corporate came in hard.
Well, Red Bull, definitely. It's been a while. It's been a long time. And so I think that the triple OGs definitely felt like they got a little bit robbed. The double O's, or the ones who were in the 80s, they didn't have too good of a result dealing with Hollywood and the mainstream. They got chucked to the side. And so there's resentment with both of those generations. And so when I talk to them, I understand it. So I don't take anything they say to heart. Most of them show me love because I'm trying to bring them back into, the public eye and to get their respect. Dancing Doug is doing the Breakin Hall of Fame. God bless him. So, but young people now, they just can't see the success of us. They don't see it. They only see winning, being top 4 in the world, if it's a Red Bull or Monster. And so they have a very limited view. And that's what I mean. Like if they're coming in just for that, there's no awareness of anything else but that. And that isn't culture or community at all. It's just, points and how many times did I win? And that's it. So emotionally, they're kind of cut off from what me and you were connected to, that gave us a little bit more like solid ground, solid footing. So, I think that there's a lot of work for us all to do. But if we can just, open up a little bit more, we'll be okay. We'll be okay.
I feel that. And now, do you feel that they were too young in the 80s? Because half of the people that I interviewed from let's say you call it the double OG, the double OGs, the 80s B-boys, the ones that I've interviewed on this show, they were really young. They're telling me 15, 16, 17 years old. So I could imagine at 15, 16, 17 years old, you don't have the knowledge of business or even how to fill up an income tax or, you know,
Yep.
insurance and
Yep.
a waiver and the right
None of that.
contract, how to read it, like
Yep.
so I feel that I'm not saying it's their fault, but I'm not saying it's not their fault either, because we came in the 90s and we were a little smarter in the
We were.
sense of like
We
kind
were.
of like wait, before signing that contract,
Yeah.
can I give you this contract in a few days? I'm gonna
Right.
give it to
Right.
someone that could read it. Back
Right.
then, these kids were so just happy and
Yeah.
motivated that they want to do the show. They signed, give me that money, we're out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I,
Well, because
that's what I feel.
you imagine that it's gonna work out, and you see so many superstars, and you see, you know, no one at that point was still there was no okay. So VH1 Behind the Music. Do you remember that TV series?
Yes, I
That
remember
came
that.
out in the 2000s. That right there was telling everybody how many snakes there were in Hollywood.
Yes.
So you get all these singers and these actresses, and now they're telling you, oh yeah, this happened and this happened. I mean, we didn't know that Juan Gabriel, who's a Mexican superstar, his
Yeah.
accountant was stealing all his money. Ricky Martin le estaba robando el dinero. Who's another one? There's another woman who Celia Cruz. So these are
Oh, I
stories
could
that
even go to
never.
Univision, Walter Mercado, that he
Oh my
passed.
God, he's another one. Yeah.
Walter
So, but they never shared because it was taboo. They never shared how they got jerked. Never. You know, that only came in the 2000 when Behind the Music started to tell you about the drugs that somebody introduced to Donna Summer. And you know what I'm saying? And all the contracts, TLC with Pebbles. And
Oh,
right.
yeah.
Then all this stuff was coming out. But before then, oh, it was taboo. You couldn't tell someone how, because you're so lucky to even be famous. We'll cut you off. So when our generation came up, we saw what happened to them, and we were just a little bit more wise. We didn't really end up getting too much traction in the industry. If anything, we kind of stayed away because we were always asking, well, what's the fine print and how much percentage? And do I own anything? So if anything, we probably like protected ourselves and stood back instead of jumping in because the contracts weren't going to be friendly. And even today's rappers, like they know a little bit more about asking for the masters and to have their own publishing. So today's rappers know a little bit more, but they're still getting jerked with the streaming. So esa es otra cosa,
Yeah, that's right.
you know?
And I know that with the poverty that those kids had in the 80s, knowing that they got to go back home, that they probably not going to eat for a few days,
Right.
and you got a agent or a manager with a
Yeah.
with a contract saying $5,000 for the world tour, and they're like, $5,000? If I don't sign it, I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna eat nothing. Like,
Exactly.
sign me
and
up.
the family's
Let's
gonna
go.
look at you. Families, especially for men, the family looks at you. You better provide. Tú estás aquí, what's in the fridge? Come on. So I'm sure that it was tough. I have a lot of respect and compassion for that generation, but I also feel like they shouldn't be jealous of my generation or the ones now. I'm not jealous of the people right now because I'm making my own money. I made my own way. So I work hard for my money. I'm not jealous of the Red Bull All-Stars.
In
Keep
fact,
doing
they
it.
inspire me. Everyone that's going to the Olympics and all these things is happening, I'm inspired. I'm like, wow. And I
Yeah.
know it crossed your mind in the early 90s that you were like, man, maybe you go to the Olympics, the X Games, or something
I remember
bigger.
the X
That
Games.
Do you remember the
Yeah,
X Games? People
yeah.
wanted to be in the X Games. Like, why
Yeah.
are we in there? Now it's happening.
Yeah.
I'm like, power to you guys, but we do need to kind of support and kind of be in the ear a little bit, because
That's it.
you don't want it to be in the Olympics and it's just people flying, no culture, no
Right.
nothing, and it's just like like no
Right.
history behind. Like,
Bueno, and
spectators
at the
gonna
same
get
time,
bored.
but at the same time, if that is what it's gonna be, then that's that lane. And then you keep doing your stuff in Orlando.
Do
I
you
keep
feel
doing my
the
stuff.
culture? Do you feel the culture is gonna rise, or do you think it's gonna be like more people are gonna be focusing more on the Olympics and not really supporting the hip hop culture,
Not
or do
really.
you think it's gonna give it like a extra eyeball of like, oh, that's a hip hop event, let's go, the
I
Olympics,
think
you know?
we have to see, porque todavía no sabemos. So we have to see how it
What
actually.
does your heart tell you though? What does your heart tell you?
No, my heart tells me that the underground is always going to be authentic. So I'm not afraid of that. You know, when you go to DR, on Cibao or whatever, you know, they got bachata and they're playing their merengue ripiao, and right, that's never going to go away. Just like in Puerto
Yeah.
Rico, people are still
Yeah,
doing
right.
plena and salsa for
Even
las
though the
patronales.
reggaeton is crazy over there.
It is, but it's
Like,
a time and place. There's a time and
yeah,
place, you know. So yes,
absolutely.
Bad Bunny, but ahora están las patronales for San Juan. We're gonna do the traditional thing, and yeah, we'll do the after party. We'll, you know, there's always a time and place for it because you can't erase your tío. Your tío is there. When you
Yeah.
can't put tape on his mouth, and he's gonna be like, no, yo lo quiero hacer así. So, and there's a
That's
lot of
right.
tíos. It's not just one tío, it's a bunch of tíos from that same root. And so
Yeah.
we'll never be able
There's
to
a
erase.
bunch of uncles everywhere. For sure,
Exactly.
for
And
sure.
so they inspire me, and I am not worried about the culture. The only time that we could have been a little scared was the 90s or the late 80s. That was the moment where we really, I think everybody was like, wow, is it gone? Is it dead? That was the moment. But it's not dying now. It's not dying. And there's a lot of people like you and me in all these countries. I can tell you because they sometimes hit me up and they're like, oh my God, the Olympics. And I'm like, hey, keep doing what you're doing. I saw your flyer. You keep doing what you're doing. You can't waver now because that's going to grow. The Olympics is only going to get bigger and stronger. So you have to stay and dig your heels in. Train your kids, train them to maybe you'll get some Olympians out of your school. Fuck it. But
Yeah.
keep the cultural practice happening and you'll be all right. You'll be all right. You know?
Yes, and now we're in
Yo, Flash, it's gonna be
2023.
it's gonna be 2 hours now.
Yes. So now we're almost done. We're almost done. And remember,
Okay,
I'm gonna edit this and chop it up. So
right.
now 87 all the way to 2023.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I would like to ask you if you
Long
could go
time.
back to being a kid again, what would you tell yourself? You remember when I mentioned to you that 10-year-old girl?
Yeah, right.
If you could go back and you could take a time machine, you say, yo, I'm flying back all the way to the past, and you meet Anna, little Anna right there standing,
Yeah.
and you're talking to
Oh.
her because you know all these girls, they want to be inspired. And guess what? Little Anna knows that it's her in the future coming
Oh
back.
my God.
What would you tell her? What would you tell
Oh
her?
my goodness. Man, I feel like the way everything worked out is okay. Of course, there were a lot of hard times. There were a lot of bad moments that we didn't get into, and that's great. But I think maybe I would tell that little girl that even though the bad things are about to happen to you, keep going. It's gonna get so good later. It's gonna get so good. So at 10 years old, todavía las cosas, they're not shifting too much. You know, my brother's still home, my sister still home, the family's intact. It's beautiful in East Harlem. We haven't moved out yet. There's a lot of danger and craziness, but it hasn't permeated. It's as I get older that the chaos takes over, and I am dancing on the street. When I'm dancing on the street, I'm homeless. I did have a moment of drug addiction. There were quite a few sexual assaults. So bad things are coming, okay? You just gotta know that there's beautiful stuff on the other side of it. Please hang in there. Just hang in there. Because
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I love.
Even when I come to breaking, there's a lot of jealousy and a lot of envy and a lot of shit talking that happens in the first like 5 to 7 years of my Bgirl life. Then after that, I made it. I made it through. So
you just tell her, keep going. Don't stop. It don't matter the obstacles that happen in life. Don't stop. Keep going. That's what you would say, right?
Mm-hmm. That's what I was saying.
Awesome,
Keep going.
awesome. So now, almost ending the show. If you could be remembered for one thing, what would it be? Let's say 50 years, we're no longer here, and people want to know who's Anna Rokafella Garcia, and they want to know, they type it in on Google or maybe Super Google, who knows what it is, whatever it is in the future, and they want to know who you are. What would you want to be remembered for? Because we all need to leave a legacy, because you know, even if our body's just a shell, you know, what remains is the legacy of either our last name or your full name from Anna Rokafella Garcia. What is something you want to be remembered for? You could say just one thing, making it really small.
For me, it has to be breaking. It has to be that I wanted to jump in with the guys and do floor moves and spin, and I loved it, and I evolved with it, from it. I grew from it. That would be it. Everything else is great, but it was really the breaking that it was like the super fertilizer to my seed. So I would want to be remembered as a woman who was breaking and
that was breaking through
didn't stop.
barriers, breaking through
También,
obstacles,
también,
breaking
yep,
through all that, and
yep.
hence your name, Rokafella. And I didn't ask you earlier. I know why they call you Rokafella, but can you tell the audience that doesn't know? And you know,
It's gonna end soon. We're gonna end soon,
yes,
but
yes,
it's
yes.
just
Go ahead.
it's two things coming together. It is me being able to rock the fellas in a circle, because at that time it wasn't happening too much. Girls could jump in, but then a guy would probably grab her. And then it was me dancing on the street in front of Rockefeller Center. It's just, you know, a cop wanted to move us, and he moved us whenever he wanted to. And one time I just told him, like, you don't even know me. You don't know, like, I could be related to the Rockefellers, you know? And he was like, right. And I was like, hey, you never know. My mom, she cleaned offices and hotels. You know, I could have your badge, you know? And it was funny for a minute. And every now and then, you know, if he returned, he would make a joke and be like, Ms. Rockefeller, you got to vacate. But really, the name is, but really, it's a breaking name. It's my tribe name. It's how I came into the village, as the girl who could rock the fellas. That's it. Yeah.
And finishing it off with, what is something people seem to misunderstand about you?
Oh, wow. I think a lot of people consider me bossy, you know, and there are ways for me to, you know, make that less true. You know, I do sometimes have to work on how I want things done and the deadline, better tone, maybe better way to manage when I work with people. But I just feel like I have this vision, and if you're here to work with me on making the vision happen, you know, I want you to take on these certain tasks and get them done. And if you have a question, ask me. But if it's the deadline and you're still like, was that today? Ooh, that's not cool. That's not cool.
Or it might be that you're just Puerto Rican and they don't know it.
Puerto Rican is a bossy, okay? So, ¿qué te dije?
I'm just saying, I'm married to a Puerto Rican. So if I feel that little bossy thing, is maybe the Taína in you, the Puerto Rico in you. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, leave it the way you found it. If the kitchen or the, you know, that, if it was clean, leave it clean. That's it.
Yeah.
You know?
There you go. There you go.
Home praise.
So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to give you your own screen, and I would like to know, what are you up to these days? Where can people find you online and connect with you? Take it away, girl.
So my IG is La Rokafella, and that's because Bgirl Rokafella got hacked. So if you're on the Bgirl Rokafella IG, unfollow, because that got hacked.
Spell it out. Spell it out.
La Rokafella. LAROKA. FELLA, La Rokafella, because La Roca is the singing part of my life, and Rokafella is the Bgirl. So I just merged the two, which I do when I perform, when I'm singing. Yo canto, and then I do a little bit of breaking.
So what are you up to these days? And give us some shout out and all that.
So I have this TV show on BronxNet. It's called Quick to Rock, KWIK2ROK. It's on BronxNet TV. So you can go to BronxNet.org and look on the lineup for Quick to Rock. I am working on music, so I'm going to be performing June 7th for the Longwood Arts Gallery, my music and dance with Kwikstep. He's the DJ. We have a party called Behind the Groove. So on Instagram, Behind the Groove NYC, BEHINDTHEGROOVE. NYC is the Instagram, and we'll let you know when we're having our dance gatherings, which we've been having since 2009 to kind of, you know, go against or balance the whole lounge bottle service.
I've been to two of them. I need to go to another one. I need to
Please,
go to
whenever you're in town, you can totally come. And the last thing is this United Hip Hop Vanguard project. We got funded through the Ford Foundation, and the next thing we're going is to Puerto Rico for Express Your Skills event happening June 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. And we're bringing
Beautiful.
from Arizona, B-Boy House, who has this Furious Styles crew. Been doing it for 30 years out there. And he's bringing one of his dancers to compete in the Express Your Skills one-on-one B-Boy. But we'll be having
Nice.
panel discussions. We'll be having some career panels too, to talk about how you can become a college professor or, so we're trying to bring a cultural activation to Puerto Rico by the United Hip Hop Vanguard. And so that's another IG, United Hip Hop Vanguard. So those are some of the things I've been doing, and it's been a good year so far, and looking ahead to some things coming up in the fall, which,
Yes,
if you
and
follow me.
congratulations on the show. I watch every episode. You guys look really beautiful up there.
Thank
It's
you.
so dope to just know that I've shared the stage with you, the dance floor, hanging out, locker rooms, green room, all these areas.
Flash,
And then now
yes.
you're on TV. I'm like,
Right.
yeah, she on TV. I know her.
It's a beautiful thing, and we are praying for more opportunities, so that if that's happening for us, the people coming behind us, they're gonna get even more doors that'll open, because we have proved breakers are not just spinning on our heads. We have so much more intellect and knowledge and courage. So I'm glad that you've seen it. I'm glad you're doing Flash Talks. I'm on Flash Talks.
Yes. And I was looking so forward to this, and I'm like so hyped right now, just knowing. And I know that we can't capture your entire life over 30 years of dancing in 2, 3, 4, not even 24 hours, if you really think about it.
Es mucho.
Impossible.
And also being Latina, there's like all of that happening with the family and the language, and being Black, wearing my hair in dreadlocks or trenza when I wear the braids.
Yes,
it's a lot.
yes.
But we're here, and it's 2023 Flash, and I can't wait to, maybe we'll do something in Orlando, maybe at HipHop Studios or something. Let's put our heads together.
Unfortunately, Studio is permanently closed.
No me diga, because I donated recently. I donated when they had the recent
Yeah, me too. But they tried and it didn't work out. But supposedly something is gonna happen. It's gonna happen. Something, I don't know what's going on, but there's a few little practice. I hold the practice on Mondays here at a gymnastics spa every Monday. But
let's
I
do
really
something,
appreciate
Flash.
you.
Let's think about it. Let's think about joining forces.
Because this gym, it's sponsored by UCF, which is University of Central Florida. It's a big gym, and they have it kind of reminds me of Chelsea Piers, like that big thing.
I remember
it has that same thing.
A long time.
Yeah, so you see, I'm taking you back, giving you some flashbacks right now.
I remember, because that's your name, Flashback. But I want to flash forward. I want to flash forward with you, and maybe talk about something in the future where we can merge our resources and our ideas and get something going in Orlando, because I think it's time. It's time now. So
we need to connect more. Yes, we're gonna do it flash forward.
Afrofuturism.
There you go. But thank you very much, Anna. Listen, I am so honored. And hopefully in the future, a few episodes, I get quick to sit down and talk. I really
that's another one.
His history.
That's another
and
one.
I know a lot of people don't know his history, like where he first started, like how it really came about. So and everyone is asking me, when is Kwikstep? When is Kwikstep? I'm like, don't worry, one at a time. Like, you know what I'm saying?
But that one's gonna be long. That one's gonna be long, because there's a lot of stuff before. There's a lot of stuff that happened before everybody got really to know him. So and he knows so much history and met so many people, and the graffiti. Because when I met him in '94, constantly taking me to go hang out with that graffiti writer. I wasn't aware of graffiti like that. I saw it on the walls, but to sit with the person who's doing it first on a piece of paper while you're chilling, eating spaghetti.
Yes,
and then
in fact.
Yeah,
in fact, sorry that I cut you off, because I just thought of something when you said graffiti. Do you remember we did a show in the church with Tats Crew?
Oh.
Or at TC5, one of those two.
It was a big church, right? The Riverside
big
Church, right?
And we
The one
did.
that-
They put a linoleum where in the front in the stage, and
remember.
me, Incredible Josh, Yaya, you, and
I
then
remember.
there was like
Yep. Here it
a
comes.
naked dancer, a
Yes.
naked dancer.
Here it comes. Yes. And they had told him, you can't show your thing. And he was like, okay,
Yeah,
no, sure, I can dance without it.
he
Pero
did it.
al último,
He,
he went into a
Yeah.
freeze. He actually did a b-boy freeze that we I was like, oh, not looking, but not look. Whoa,
that
not
was
looking.
crazy. But what crew was it? The Graffiti was it TC5
No, that's
or
Tats
Tats Crew?
No, it was Tats Crew.
Tats
That
Crew.
was Tats Crew.
Tats Crew.
Tats Crew and us have always been like.
Can you give
right
a shout out
back.
to the name that were there? Because I don't remember.
Nicer, who's still painting. Bio,
Shout out
still
to Nicer.
painting. Who was it? BG, 163, BG. And they have a couple other ones who are like from other, states and countries. Like Nazem is from Europe, and Totem, who's from Atlanta, Georgia.
Totem, yes, I remember Totem.
He's amazing. So yeah, Tats Crew in full circle, because we're at the point. So the point was like a place where we were kind of all bubbling.
Oh, so
and,
that's why. That's right.
And I was just there today. I'm gonna go back in June. I'm always still connected to the point because that was the first place where like we were received. I taught class, we did shows. My wedding reception was there. So I can't ever forget the point. It's more than 25 years old. And man, if I ever make $1 million, I'm sending money over there to fix that floor.
Okay.
Bendito, because the dance studio,
yes.
the theater
But
too, the floor in the theater.
Thank you
so
much
Thank
for
you,
this.
Flash. Y seguimos. We're gonna keep creating.
Yeah. I got so much love. I love you guys, and thank you for everything you've done for the world.
Thank you.
And we're gonna keep going. This is just the beginning. Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, I go by the name of Flashback. This is Flash Talks, history worth listening to. This is the beautiful Ana Garcia, aka Rokafella, ladies and gentlemen. And good night, y'all. Peace.
Yeah.